Good afternoon. I want to call to order today's meeting of the Senate Committee on Legislative Operations and Elections. Madam Secretary, please call the roll.
Senator Daley. Here. Senator Cannizzaro. Senator Krasner. Here. Senator Steinbeck. Chair Orenshaw.
Present. And Secretary, please mark Senator Steinbeck absent excused. Please mark the Majority Leader present when she arrives, and if she's not able to arrive today at 10, please mark her absent excused. I'd like to provide a few general housekeeping measures. I'd ask everyone to silence their electronic devices. If someone wishes to testify, please sign in at the table by the door. Please provide a business card, if any, to our committee secretary. For those joining online, please be sure to mute your microphone when you're not speaking to minimize any background noise. When testifying, please turn on the microphone and clearly state your name, spell your name, and your affiliation with any groups, if you're affiliated with any groups or representing any groups, for the record. Then please turn the microphone off each time you're done speaking. If you're going to distribute handouts, we ask for 20 paper copies for members of the public. Electronic copies should have been submitted in PDF format to our committee manager in advance of the committee meeting. We do expect courtesy and respect in our interactions during the meeting, even if we might not agree with someone else's position on a bill or an issue. Committee members will be using their laptops to view handouts and other documents during the hearing. Please don't view this as a sign of disrespect or inattention. As a reminder, we may take agenda items out of order. We will take public comment at the end of the meeting, and we will limit public comment at the end of the meeting to 3 minutes per person. With that, I would like to open today's hearing. We are lucky to have Senator Wynn with us on Senate Bill 143. So, Senator Wynn, thank you for joining us. Any co-presenters you'd like to bring up with you, either here in Las Vegas? Thank you for presenting Senate Bill 143 today. I'm sorry, just want to let everybody know. I also, at some point, the vice chair and I will be playing musical chairs because I'm presenting a bill before Senate Natural Resources. So if you see me walk out and hand the gavel to Vice Chair Daley, I just wanted everybody to understand. I will return when I can, but at some point, I'll get a message that I have to head over to Natural Resources Committee.
No, that's fine. I understand. I have to head over to HHS shortly to present as well. Hello, everyone. Good afternoon. My name is Rochelle Wynn. I proudly represent Senate District 3 in Clark County. For those of you that are familiar with my district, a large part of my district, including my own neighborhood, the McNeil neighborhood, are older and often historic neighborhoods. And with those older neighborhoods, we often have mature landscaping and a tree canopy that is often 50 to 75 years of age. A lot of times people will forget they are in Las Vegas when they drive through our communities because, and I know Senator Orenshaw has some similar areas in his district. Senator Daley probably doesn't have to experience the lack of greenery and trees. But when you drive through some of these older historic neighborhoods, you have larger properties and they do have large mature landscaping and older trees that have been a part of our community and a part of the Las Vegas Valley for a very long time. And honestly, the residential communities are really the closest things to urban green spaces that we have in our communities, especially in some of our older neighborhoods where some of the municipalities are investing in parks and green spaces in newer development areas by building parks and building new parks and increasing that greenscape in those greenscape areas. A lot of times our homes and our neighborhoods are providing that same kind of garden park-like experience. A lot of times I always start off by telling why these bills are important and why I'm bringing them and what the basis of this is. It started off by listening to my neighbors, including my neighbor who's sitting next to me, Laura McSwain, and other neighbors in other areas of my community, including surrounding districts, including Senator Steinbeck's, Senator Orenshaw, and I know Senator Scheibel and other areas around the district that have similarly situated older historic neighborhoods with those mature landscaping and communities. I also listened to neighbors who were hit in the recent years with excessive water charges, conservation requirements, and other incentive programs to tree baits, xeriscaping, and septic conversions. And what I heard over and over and over again is that these programs, while I believe they have good intentions, the reality is they disproportionately affect people who live in my districts and communities around the state that are very similarly situated. just to give you some examples of why I'm bringing this bill and why I think we need to have a broader conversation about this, is we have people that are removing mature existing trees to qualify for tree rebates. So they're taking out a 50-year-old tree and putting in like a sapling that's like under 5 years of age. We are replacing, I heard from seniors, several in my district, who purchased their homes in the 60s when they were first built. And they are now seniors. A lot of times they are on fixed incomes, and they can no longer afford these water charges to maintain the landscape that they've had in their homes for like 60 years. I've also heard from residents, and I've also had this same experience, that could no longer afford the water fees to maintain their existing landscape or their pools that are grandfathered in, that are like sometimes deeper and larger than they are being currently afforded to. But they also couldn't afford to replace their landscaping as well with anything that's required under some of the rebate programs. I heard some of the policies I know we have passed in previous sessions, including the removal of non-functional commercial turf. And during those hearings, we heard over and over and over again, and even bills that I signed on to and I agreed to and I passed and I voted in favor of, they were not supposed to affect residential communities. And you'll hear today that there are residential condo communities that do see this and do read this as a mandate, that they are mandated now to take out some of those communal grass in like condo communities. And this is causing extremely expensive conversions that I believe was going to be required of these communities when we pass that legislation. I've heard stories of people who have tried to comply with reduced watering only to see their trees and shrubs die after nearly 5 decades of being in their community. I've also seen people start to replace things with artificial turf, and as we have discussed, and Senator Neal, I know, has brought plenty of legislation around this area that I have supported. We have concerns about the use of artificial turf and forever chemicals like PFAS that are sometimes contained in those artificial turfs, and what that does to the heat island effect that we are facing with an ever-growing hot climate in southern Nevada, and quite honestly across this entire state. I think what people probably know from me is I have a background in law, and I've done criminal defense work, and so I know that having programs in place that are fair and just is also important. And what I learned, and what I've learned over the course of the last 6 years in this area, is that the bulk of what we do under the name of conservation and water conservation falls solely on the city of Las Vegas. For example, you can own a home in Henderson that has the same layout and you are watering the same amount, and you are not hit with excessive water fees because you live in Henderson. But if you live in Las Vegas, you are hit with those excessive water fees that can sometimes be in the thousands of dollars. And so for those of you, again, that know me, my commitment to just and fair policies can only be fair and just if they are applied fairly and justly. And so I will say, as it is applied with excessive water fees, this is not applied fairly, and it is not applied justly. And so if it is, in fact, a fair and just process, it should be applied fairly and justly across the entire state. And that brings me to where we are now with Senate Bill 143. In contemplation, I talked about this direction and what we were going to do. We had many conversations over the past 18 months leading into this. You can see by the low bill number that it was something that I filed. I think it was the very first bill that I filed. What we wanted to do. Did we want to ask for a study? Did we want to audit the water district? Did we want to convey a working group? And when it came down to it, we wanted to convey something, and we wanted to also get direction from this committee on what you wanted to see. All with the hope that we can start bringing science to the table to replace politicians that make these decisions currently, including ourselves. If we can, when it comes to creating policies that are fair and just around water and water conservation, I hope that we can replace some of these appointed people, sometimes with financial motivations of their own, with members from the community who are impacted. And that's why I brought the people that I brought with me today to talk about that impact. Instead of hearing from lobbyists and instead of hearing from people that work within the industry, we want to hear from people that work in the industry. So at this time, I'd like to turn it over to my neighbor, turned advocate, turned sometimes pain in my butt, Laura McSwain. I'm so happy to be sitting here with her. And I think it is representative of how this issue affects everyone in our community and in our state and in my district in particular, because we don't always agree on things. But I think we need to start having that conversation, and committees like this and the legislature as a body as a whole needs to hear from people in the community that live this, feel this, and are advocating for this. So I'm really proud to be sitting with her today as well. We also have Mr. Stacy Stanley the third and Dr. Kelly Cope, who will be briefly highlighting why this discussion is important and why we're bringing this to you today. So at this point, I will step away. I will turn this over to Ms. McSwain, and I will actually swap places with my other two presenters and step back.
Thank you very much, Senator Wynn, for presenting the bill. And, you know, as a native Las Vegan, I can certainly testify in my opinion that every summer it seems like it's getting hotter down there, and air pollution is getting worse. And I appreciate your efforts here on this bill and what you're doing. And thank you to the co-presenters. Whoever would like to begin, please state your name for the record and proceed. And there's a little button by the microphone. If your microphone's green, that means it's on. If it's red, it means it's not on. And I apologize, your microphone is red, so it's not on. Okay, great. And I apologize to the other presenter. If you might, actually, don't turn yours off. That way we'll have better audio quality for the record. Thank you very much. Please state your name for the record and proceed.
Thank you. Laura McSwain for the record. I am the founder and president of the Water Fairness Coalition. I am a native of Las Vegas, and I am old enough to remember getting water out of the springs and out of the wells of Las Vegas when I was a young girl. The Water Fairness Coalition was established in August of 2023 in response to the obvious disregard of residents' concerns during public meetings held at the Las Vegas Valley Water District and the Southern Nevada Water Authority, specifically around the excessive use charge penalties. That was my initial inspiration. At the time, I was president of the McNeil Neighborhood Association, and the residents in that neighborhood, as Senator Wynn so graciously shared in her presentation, was greatly concerned about what was going to happen to our urban tree canopy. A one-size-fits-all, regardless of lot side method, to make outdoor water use unaffordable and impacts more than the intended targets, and that's really where the danger lies. One deputy general manager stated to me privately, well, if you want to maintain your quality of life, you can always just pay the excessive use charges. SNWA's Project Armageddon, and that's what they call it internally, may end up being prophetic. The only study on the impacts of these policies that came from a records request was one demanded by Clark County commissioners during an election cycle that estimated how many voters might be impacted. Of course, the rules change was not put into effect until after that election. The devastation coming from recent policy initiatives were predictable, they are now visible, and we are killing the very things that serve to protect us from increasing temperatures. For the first time in the history of the Las Vegas Valley Water District and the Southern Nevada Water Authority, they have taken steps to go after existing residents for water savings. Water policy has been created through fear and intimidation under AB 356, the excessive use charge penalties, and AB 220 recently in 2023. We have appealed to those currently empowered to oversee these districts for 2 years. What has been discovered during our efforts to appeal to reason ranges from questionable supporting documents at public meetings to the cover-up of a water pressure failure that was in violation of administrative safety requirements. Bottom line, trust has been lost within our community. Proper oversight is lacking. We believe SB 143 provides a first step towards protecting our community and requiring the Las Vegas Valley Water District and SNWA to operate within their charters. Pat Mulroy, former general manager of the Water District and architect of SNWA, plainly stated, we cannot conserve our way out of this. The one question I ask that you keep in mind as you listen to the rest of the presentation, What is the point of chasing water savings only to end up environmentally bankrupt? And is it even necessary? With that, I will turn this over to my colleagues, my colleague Stacy Stanley, who I need to introduce. He is president of the Spanish Trails Homeowners Association, former three-time mayor of Aspen, and he'll be speaking to the impacts of misguided rules that quite frankly exceed the legislative intent of AB 356, which serves as a major example of why SB 143 is so important.
Good afternoon, Mr. Stanley. Thank you so much. And please state your name for the record, spell your name, and proceed with your testimony. Thank you for joining us.
Stacy Stanley III, S-T-A-C-Y, S-T-A-N-D-L-E-Y. Thank you, Laura. And thank you all for having time to hear our comments this afternoon. You've got my resume, and I don't want to go through that because that's very easy to read. What I'd like to do is, how did I end up with such a strong commitment to the environment, either professionally or as a giver back to it? I spent my undergraduate years at the University of Colorado working on a ranch up in Estes Park, Colorado, in Rocky Mountain National Park. My days off were spent climbing in the Never Summer Range on the west side of the Continental Divide. To get to the climbing area, you took a path that led through an area that was old mining claims, and there was one little old village called Lulu City. Lulu City, you'd get down on your hands and knees and fill your water bottle so you could go on to the rest of the trek and up to the mountain. Lulu City, when you filled your water bottle in that stream, it was about a foot deep and maybe 6 or 8 feet wide. And there were little rivulets running into it. That is the headwaters of the Colorado River. So I started my affair with the Colorado River in 1964. Fast forward, after getting out of college and beginning my professional career, I did work as a whitewater river boatman on the Grand Canyon for a number of years. Moving forward even further, I then became as a consultant to the Colorado River Indian Tribe.
Mr. Stanley, I am so sorry to interrupt you. I do want you to continue. I got the call to head over to Natural Resources Committee. I'm handing the gavel over to Vice Chair Daley. So I hate to interrupt you, but I just want to let you know I'm going to head over, and then I'll try to get back hopefully before the hearing ends.
So working for the Colorado River Indian Tribe, who I'm sure you're all very familiar with down in Parker, Arizona, we were hired to help them develop a land use master plan for the Parker Strip. That's the 11 miles of the Colorado River between Parker Dam and the Headgate Rock Dam, which is literally the end of the Colorado River. From there, it would flow into the Gulf of California. However, it hasn't done that for years now, as I'm sure all of you know. So with that background, the Colorado River has been part of my life. I'm 80 years old, so I guess for most of my life in that case. Moving to Nevada 20 years ago, I actually went out and got my scuba certificate in January in Lake Mead. So I've seen the bottom of the lake through the eyes of a lens. What that's led me to believe is that protecting the water is absolutely critical, but to not use it wisely is also just as critical. And so when we look at AB 356, and I'm looked at the notes that came from Assemblymember Howard Watts, where he said, AB 356 is not intended to target common areas and communities. Common areas in these communities are considered functional turf. That was the whole intent of the bill as we all understood it at that time. When you read the bill, it really seems to be, it was a knee-jerk reaction without any forethought as to what it was intending to accomplish and how it was going to accomplish that, because it simply states, no Colorado River water may be used for non-functional turf. No definitions, no penalties, no further description of what that meant or where it was to be applied. For example, I'll give you more specifics on Spanish Trail, but when we had a meeting with SNWA and we asked them the question, when we remove this turf that you have now mandated for us to remove, do we have to change our irrigation system and put in drip irrigation, Netafin, all these new technologies that are available? And the answer was no. You take out the turf and you can continue to use spray irrigation. That was important to us because we have 6,000 trees in Spanish Trail that we do not want to lose. But the point of that is we can take out the turf, the trees still need the same amount of water, and we can still use the same irrigation system. So AB 356 served no function. We have not saved any, we will not be required to save any water. We will only be required to destroy our environment. Now, the impact of AB 356 is where I'd like to focus a little bit today. The city of Henderson recently, when the paper was quoted, as they're going to remove 144,000 square feet of grass. That's about 3 acres this year. The city of Las Vegas is undergoing a similar effort to remove about 140,000 acre feet, also 3 acres. So they're taking out 6 acres of grass in those two cities. We've received a mandate from SNWA that we, as Spanish Trail, in our 400 acres, have got to remove 578,000 square feet. That's 13 acres. That is over twice as much grass as the city of Henderson and the city of Las Vegas are going to remove. We have already, before AB 356 was ever introduced, we removed 550,000 square feet. So by the time we comply with AB 356, we will remove 1 million square feet of turf in Spanish Trail and put 6,000 trees at risk. The reason we know they're at risk is you have a letter in your packet that we received from the Southern Nevada Arborist Guild, which is 120 certified arborists working in the Clark County area, stating very clearly that the grass under the trees is vital to the health of the trees, and that both of them provide environmental benefits. I'm not going to get into that because Dr. Kelly Coop is an expert in that field. But the point is, where's the equity in that? And then you look at the recently produced study by DRI using Henderson again, where they said that what is the impact of urban heat and turf removal? One of their findings was that the grass under trees only uses 50% of the water as open field grass. So therefore, if we keep the grass under our trees, we can meet the water requirement reductions that SNWA feels very strongly that we need to do. In talking to the Parks and Recreation Director in Henderson, I asked her, are you losing trees? And she said, yes, we are losing trees. I said, what are you going to do about it? She said, we're going to replace each lost tree with 3 new trees. I said, well, you know, a 40, 50-year-old mature tree is producing a huge canopy of cooling oxygen and air, and 3 new trees with a 3-inch caliper, I'm not going to live long enough to ever get any benefit from that canopy. She agreed. So now take a quick look at Spanish Trail. As Laura pointed out, I am the president of the HOA. We have 1,200 homes on 400 acres of land. We were developed in 1984, so we're fairly old by the standards of Las Vegas. We have 11 sub-associations, and this is an important point. Our sub-associations start at 1,100 square feet and go up to over 10,000 square feet. So we are very much a mixed-use community. The cost of meeting the AB 356 mandate for Spanish Trail, using numbers produced by the members of the SNWA Water Resource Committee producing the guidelines, was that we will have to spend $7.3 million or $6,000 a home to meet the guidelines of turf removal as mandated by AB 356. And it gets worse. SNWA is discriminating against townhomes. We have 4 sub-associations that are townhomes. These are the 1,100 to 1,500, 1,600 square foot homes, and they're row houses. By U.S. Census and by Clark County P&Z, these are defined as single-family homes. However, SNWA has defined them as condominiums, and they have to remove their front grass. The single-family homes get to keep both their front yards and their backyards. For these 1,100 square foot homes, their cost of turf removal can be as high as $9,000 per home. And our bigger single families, because they don't have to remove any turf, are in the area of $200 to $300 a home. There is no equity there. It's a badly thought out plan. So getting down to why we're doing it, do we have a water crisis in Nevada? And this is something I actually worked for the senator who was the chairman of the Senate subcommittee on water resources back in Washington, D.C. in the late 70s and early 80s. What we're experiencing is a cyclical water event, cyclical weather event. The last one, interestingly, was exactly 800 years ago, and it went from 1200 to 1225. And that's when the Anasazi Indians moved out of the southwest area of the United States and migrated into northern New Mexico, southern Colorado, and Arizona, where it was more livable climate in those days. So this is a cyclical. It's not a permanent situation. If the bathtub ring continues to descend and goes all the way down to Deadpool, which is about 895 feet, there will still be 2.5 million acre-feet of water in Lake Powell, and that will create a lake of 47 square miles. We are not out of water. If that happens, the only city that can access that water is Las Vegas, because there will be no water flowing through Hoover Dam or through the penstocks driving the turbines. We get that water, and that is because of the vision of Pat Mulroy in developing the third straw many, many years ago that went into effect 11 years ago. So do we run a real risk of ever getting to Deadpool? There's a real question there. In the last 100 years, the lowest flow of water through the Colorado River at Lee's Ferry, which is below Lake Powell, which is the measuring point for the southern districts of the basin, was 5 million acre-feet. The compact calls for 7.5 million acre-feet using an unusually wet period when they actually did write the Colorado River Compact. So the worst year that we have had since then, even in this 20-year drought, was only 15% below what the actual compact calls for. If we hit the Deadpool, we still get the water in Las Vegas. We are the only ones that can get it, and we have that water by legal right. So we do not have a water crisis. We have a trumped-up plan to satisfy perhaps egos, perhaps building developers for BLM land that should be bringing their own water in, just as they do in Maricopa County in Arizona. So in closing, I'd just like to say that the issue is both the turf and the trees, because they live together symbiotically to provide the quality of environment that we have. You know, Nevada started as a railroad, Las Vegas started as a railroad stop to provide water for the steam engines. That was our genesis, and we've grown to the point that we are now a vital community that has a very strong, good environmental ethic, and we're running the risk of destroying it. The grass and the trees provide the oxygen and many other environmental, social, and economic benefits for all of us. And I hope that by looking at including in SB 143, we can address this issue so that we protect our environment and don't let it be squandered through unnecessary legislation. And I very much thank you for the opportunity to speak with you this afternoon.
Thank you, Stacy. I'd like to introduce now Dr. Kelly Cope. She is a professor and extension specialist from Utah State University. Her extensive background and expertise in water conservation and turf management is sought out throughout the West and beyond. And thank you for being here, Kelly.
Thank you for having me. I'm just loading this presentation. Oh my goodness. I'm not sure what the difficulty is here. Okay. Oh, you are seeing it. Forgive me. My apologies. Good afternoon. I'm very grateful for the opportunity to be with you here today. As Laura mentioned, my name is Kelly Cope, and I'm a professor and an extension specialist at Utah State University. And more specifically, I am the state's landscape water conservation and turfgrass specialist. I also direct our Center for Water Efficient Landscaping, which I'll share just a bit about with you, I hope. Oh dear.
How mine works so well.
I don't know. You don't, okay, okay.
It's bizarre.
Oh, dear me. Is there anyone young in here?
Oh, we might have someone who's told.
Yeah, may I see if I can find it just real quick?
Please. just a bit more about our center because I think it has a bearing and provides some context for why I'm here with you today. We were founded 26 years ago by some very forward-thinking faculty members and legislators, by the way, who saw a need for water conservation in the landscape and began our center. We have a number of faculty, staff, and graduate students associated with us and work on all aspects of water-efficient landscaping research, which we then share with the public and others who can use the information. Today I'm here, though, to speak in support of an amendment to AB 356 that would make an exception for grass growing under trees. Of course, AB 356 was aimed at reducing Southern Nevada's reliance on Colorado River water by mandating the removal of non-functional turf grass. But the term non-functional in this case is misleading. Just like all plants, grasses perform many environmentally important functions, several of which you see on the slide before you, producing oxygen, sequestering carbon, atmospheric cooling. These are just a few of the functions of grasses in the landscape. A 5,000 square foot lawn, for example, can produce enough oxygen for as many as 34 people. And word about this bill has certainly gotten out. States like California have passed similar bills, or they're considering bills like this. California's bill was signed into law in October of 2023 with phased implementation beginning in 2027, also focused on commercial, industrial, and institutional properties, as well as common areas and HOAs. And the bill defines non-functional turf as turf grass that is not needed to serve a human function such as recreational, civic, or community events. Like Nevada's bill, AB 1572 does not apply to single-family residences, including those in HOAs. It also does not apply to multifamily residential properties or to areas where recycled water is used for irrigation. However, there is one big difference between California's bill and AB 356, and that is that there is an exception for turf grass growing under trees to ensure the health of the trees, and there is good reason for this exception. The reason that the California bill has an exception is that in 2008, when they began turf removal programs, they were strictly voluntary, and those programs went on for many years. What they learned, however, though, was that there were many unintended negative consequences. I'll only share one of those with you here today, and that was incredible numbers of trees dying. They took that experience when they crafted their own bill and took a different path. Other states have also adopted non-functional turf bills, states like Colorado. However, Colorado has made exceptions for grass species and varieties that are well adapted to their climate. So they have also exempted existing landscapes that may not be in compliance. And then there are other states, like my home state of Utah and Texas, that also have turf removal programs that remain voluntary. And I'll just share that in San Antonio, Texas, they actually choose to focus more on irrigation rather than turf removal because they simply haven't seen the water savings from turf removal. Related to that, the way that Colorado approaches turf removal and that turf grass question, I wanted to share an example from Utah, and this is a program that is run in Salt Lake City called the Salt Lake City Turf Trade, in which the city helps its residents transition high water use grass areas to low water use grass areas. And they do this so that they can meet the needs for future growth in going forward. And I help them choose the varieties that they use based on turf grass trialing programs. But I think this is a really illustrative example to show you what they did. The city used one of its pump station properties to show residents how to make the transition. This is an aerial image of that property. The transition included a full landscape redesign, upgraded irrigation, transition of the remaining turf area to low water use turf, and the existing turf was mowed short, killed with herbicide, and then overseeded with the new low water use grasses until it was fully established. What you see here now are the before and after photos. So before, a larger turf area, which was transitioned to demonstrate what a more usable turf area would look like, and then the after photo with the low water use turf grass. Once these areas were established, which took 6 weeks, the water use on the property was reduced by 50%, and that has continued ever since 2021, and the property is only irrigated once per week, regardless of the time of year. So that has been a very successful demonstration of what can be done with low water use grasses. As I mentioned when talking about the various services provided by grasses, atmospheric cooling is one of the most important. Plants help cool the atmosphere by shading and evapotranspiration, and these cooling effects not only reduce temperature, but they also significantly reduce energy use, cooling costs, and the associated carbon emissions from power plants. In these images, which I don't think you can see the temperature, I will explain to you. These were all taken in the same location and show an air temperature of 94 degrees, a water temperature of 94 degrees, a natural grass surface temperature of 104 degrees, a bare sand temperature of 132 degrees, an asphalt temperature of 136 degrees, and a synthetic turf temperature of 165 degrees. These are all in the same location. Now, I know that artificial turf is one of the recommendations given in the state for low water use landscaping, but that should be balanced against the increase in heat that it brings. Related, there's been increasing urban heat island impacts in many cities across the country, and that includes Las Vegas, which has had the most intense urban heat island effect as compared to 59 other cities across the country recently, and I'd like to share a bit more about that. So we've been experiencing warmer summers in this country since 1970, and we also know that cities are hotter than rural areas. But this is becoming increasingly important because heat is the leading cause of weather-related deaths, and it disproportionately affects both very young and very old people whose bodies have little ability to regulate temperature. There's also more ozone pollution associated with urban heat, which can lead to other health issues like asthma and additional respiratory problems. But in addition to that daytime heat, Las Vegas also has the unhappy distinction of having the most intense overnight urban heat island effects. And this is a concern because it prevents people, and plants for that matter, from having any time to recover from extreme daytime temperatures. That increases the risk of heat-related illness and disproportionately affects vulnerable populations. And studies like this generally recommend more trees and more parks to deal with it to help mitigate these effects, and that's certainly a good approach. But I would add to that recommendation that more plants of any type really not only help to reduce the urban heat, but also provide additional benefits like absorbing carbon dioxide, sequestering carbon, all of which have more environmental benefits. My colleague, Mr. Stanley, mentioned this study in Wells Park, Henderson, Nevada, conducted by the Desert Research Institute. And what I'm going to just explain quickly is that in these images, the cooler colors represent cooler temperatures. The image on the left represents Wells Park before turf conversion. The image on the right after turf conversion. So we can see a difference there, but what about quantifying that difference? The three lines on the top, the red, orange, and peach color, represent temperatures after turf removal. The lines in the bottom, shades of blue, represent the temperature before turf removal. The average temperature at the hottest time of the day, indicated by the middle of the two sets of the lines, occurred at 2:30 p.m. and differs by 30 degrees Celsius or 54 degrees Fahrenheit. That is a rather significant increase. And the authors conclude that the turf areas where they were collecting the thermal imagery were the coolest features they mapped, and that turf removal would lead to warmer surfaces during hot sunny weather regardless of what other surface treatment was applied. They also recommended preserving trees as much as possible because their work corroborated other research that quantified the benefits of trees for cooling. Now, in reviewing DRI's report, I also came across additional research out of Israel. And this research was conducted in the Negev Desert, which has a very similar climate to Las Vegas. They evaluated the cooling capacity of different landscaping strategies, and determined what was most cool when they were considering trees, grasses, and the use of shade mesh, and every combination of those. Without getting into too much detail here, I will share that when looking at the shade mesh, they found that anytime shade mesh was used, temperatures were higher, and that includes over just bare grass areas. But the really important point that I want to emphasize here is that when they looked at trees alone, there was certainly cooling. When they looked at turf alone, there was certainly cooling. When they looked at trees and turf together, they found that the cooling effect was amplified. The two plant categories complement one another and provide some synergy there. The enhanced cooling described by the combination of trees and turf grass is one really compelling reason for amending AB 356 to provide exceptions for turf grass growing under trees. And California's experience with tree death is another. Lastly, and this has more to do with the overall intention of AB 356, I'd like to share the water savings potential of different approaches to landscape water conservation. And I have research projects that I will share in the information with the committee to back this information up. But in the interest of time, I will just share the take-home messages. And what you can see here are significant amounts of water savings associated with varying approaches to water conservation. The use of low water use grasses, for example, reducing water requirements by 30 to 40%. Auditing and testing of irrigation systems, reducing water requirements by 20 to 30%. The use of smart irrigation controllers and appropriate irrigation scheduling, reducing water applications by as much as 55%. These are incredibly significant water savings that do not require turf removal. I'd like to thank you for your attention and answer any questions you may have, and I am also certainly available to provide more information. Thank you.
Ready to go?
I think they can answer any questions you might have.
Thank you. No question? Well, I have a few that I was given, I guess. So we'll go with Ms. McSwain first, I guess. So you referenced overreach. What specific examples can you provide to suggest that they are operating outside of the charter? Short, though.
Yes, Laura McSwain for the record, and thank you for the question. The overreach is basically, they're required under the Las Vegas Valley Water Act to determine water rates based on the cost of water delivery and providing water. There is an element within the law that suggests that they can adjust rates for to encourage conservation. But in looking at records requests that I've received, they were clearly targeting residents. I mean, they've listed them and given them to the media, the top 100 water users. I do not think that that's within their charter. They also spend approximately $35 million a year in advertising. And what I'm finding is that the advertising is heavy-handed. It ends up not providing accurate information to the community, and it's misleading. And so those are just two stark examples, and there are many others, but in the interest of time, I'll leave it there.
And thank you. So on the, let's see. When Senator Wynn talked about inequities of applying that, so so why doesn't the one size fits all on that? And it's not fair. I don't know if there are any natural grasses in Las Vegas. I'm sure there were some, but why wouldn't you just go back to the original desert landscape to save water that way? And may not always be feasible, and I understand we'll have other questions about the trees and various things.
Again, Laura McSwain for the record, and again, thank you for that question. So as far as going back to the original desert, if we were going to go back to the original desert, that means going all the way back. The desert happens to be, and Dr. Cope can confirm this, is one of the most sensitive ecosystems in the world. You've disturbed that crust, and now you create all kinds of problems. So when we come in as humans and we start disrupting that, we are elevating the temperatures, we are taking away those cooling impacts, and you start rolling out asphalt and concrete and glass and reflective materials. By introducing landscape, and granted, people brought in, they wanted lush landscapes, the people coming from Chicago and places like that. But we're not advocating for every blade of grass. I'm not trying to save every blade of grass. I'm trying to create balance. The Southern Nevada Water Authority had a concept when they were very proactively protecting mature trees. I don't know why they would have dismissed that completely in favor of just mere water savings, because you have a vicious cycle. So we can't go back all the way to that desert unless we all leave the desert. Now, if that answers your question, sir.
I think so, yeah. And then, last one, so you referred to water pressure failure? No?
No, I did. Well, okay, so in
Explanation.
talking about that element of trust, and let me start by saying, and I apologize that I should have shared this at the front end. There are a lot of remarkable accomplishments from SNWA. They've extended our water supply through technology, through recycling and what have you. But somewhere along the line, we've lost sight of the human element in all of this. And I just forgot the question. The water pressure, right. So because of the organization that I've created, people are finding me now because they're at a loss. They're not getting responses from Las Vegas Valley Water District. They're in fear of what they're losing. I had this anonymous email that I received from somebody saying that the part of the community lost water December 16th. And a water pressure failure, when you have no water access, there are specific protocols that you are required to administer, including a boil water notice, including sanitizing the lines. And it's really turned into a full-fledged cover-up, because I actually went out and talked to residents and got a confirmation that they had these failures. NDEP started an investigation. They actually accepted an explanation that they thought made engineering sense, and when it turned out, it was all a ruse. So we're talking about trust, and we're talking about oversight, and going back to why SB 142 is so important, is that some of the oversight that we believe should be sitting in the hands of the boards of directors, the Clark County Commission for the Las Vegas Valley Water District, and then the other SNWA board. It's falling on deaf ears. We have been going before them for 2 years, and I even turned over all the documents that I provided to NDEP on the water failure, and if it wasn't for the efforts of people from inside the water district who do not agree with what's happening, providing me these documents, the community would have never known about it. And I find that to be very, very troubling when you're thinking about an agency that's been given wide berth to self-regulate.
And I'm only gonna ask 2 more questions. There was a couple more on here that Senator asked, and for these other 2. And I know we talked about AB 356, which is not what the bill we're hearing. We haven't heard anything about the bill we're actually hearing yet. And bill is about giving some authority to the interim committee and maybe directing a study. So we haven't heard anything about the bill yet. Hold on. So we do want to get to that, and I know we're going to have some people back and forth on the stuff. And I just want to try to make sure we're staying where we're supposed to be, and I want to help the senator who brought the bill get some of the stuff that she wants on the record. So we'll do that. So, Mr. Stanley, how are the costs of the church conversion in your presentation? How is that calculated?
What?
Say your name for the record. Yeah.
What SNW did,
Say your name for the
Stacy
record.
Stanley for the record, I'm sorry. What SNWA did after the AB 356 was enacted is they set up what was called NTRAC, and that was their non-functional turf removal committee. This was to be composed of representative groups within the community sitting as an advisory board to them and coming up with the guidelines for what was going to be considered functional and non-functional, what were going to be the guidelines for applying for a waiver to get around protecting certain parts of your turf. Some of those members were very, very skilled. One of them was the head of landscaping at Sun City Anthem, which is 12,000 homes in Henderson. Probably the most knowledgeable person in the state that's an active daily manager of water resources. He undertook the conversion of properties up at Sun City Anthem, and he determined that after you took the rebate provided by SNWA for the turf removal on a per square foot basis, you still needed to spend about $7.50 a square foot to come up with a reasonable quality of turf removal with xeriscaping replacement. So when we did our numbers so that we could make our waiver request, we used his numbers as an NTRAC member and as a professional landscaper to do the extension of those numbers to the amount of turf that we were required to remove. We have just finished completing our first waiver request approval by SNWA. We had 160,000 square feet. They let us keep 60,000 square feet, and we got rid of 90,000 square feet. The cost of that to us turned out to be $13 a square foot before the $60,000 rebate. So it turns out a net cost of $11 a square foot, which is far above the numbers that we've actually used to do the projections for the rest of the community.
I think I understand. So Dr. Cope, there you go. And I was gonna say it wrong, and I didn't
Okay,
wanna,
you
that's
can
why
say it
I
wrong.
hesitated. So how do states find grasses that are adapted? I know there's science and they do a lot of that up north too, to, you know, distant breeds and stuff. So how do they figure that out? Do you get a
Well, in recent year, Kelly Cope,
name for your record?
for the record. In recent years, actually I would say in recent decades, there's been a major effort by turfgrass breeders and turfgrass scientists to create new varieties of grass that use much less water. And part of that is involves trialing programs that are conducted across the country in different states like Utah. I conducted a number of these trials, Arizona, California, Oregon, Georgia, a lot of states back east. Unfortunately, not in Nevada at this point because we haven't found anyone to cooperate with here yet. But through these trialing efforts where we test the same varieties across many different environments, we can identify varieties that use much less water. And we test them under drought conditions. We literally turn the water off and see which ones perform the best. And these will have come through breeding programs both at universities and by seed companies. And they are always trying to create new products, and we test them for them and then provide the data back so that we can positively identify the best performing varieties, and in this case, varieties that require much less water.
Okay, thank you. And that's all the questions I'm gonna ask. Does anybody want to walk through or tell us about section 1 and section 2 of the actual bill? Or do we want to just move on to testimony and support?
142. So you said, okay, I'm sorry.
If you're not,
Well, I've got the language of the bill here, and just to clarify, I feel that our presentation and the issues that the community is experiencing illustrate very well why something like this, some oversight to what is occurring within the operational agencies. I mean, we've got consolidated power. We've got the same executive team running both agencies. We've got the same general manager who's also the lead negotiator on the Colorado River. And the county commission, everybody's got their, it's just conflicted. It just seems like something's been lost. And I look at the way Pat Mulroy managed the community, and of course I've been here as long as I have. I'm very familiar with her and her history. I think that there's probably things within the bill that are within the various legislative actions that the legislature has taken over the years that deserve another look, because notifications issues, right? We don't, the actual residents do not get direct notifications on rate changes. That was what the problem with the excessive use charges was.
very, and we're good. Thank you. Any other questions? No, all right, thank you. If you guys want to go ahead and step back, we'll take testimony either here or in Las Vegas in support of SB 143. Go ahead when you're ready.
Good afternoon, Vice Chair and members of the committee. For the record, my name is Christy Cabrera-Georgeson. I'm the Deputy Director of the Nevada Conservation League. We are here in support of SB 143. As the driest state in the country, Nevadans place a high value on the conservation of our water resources. In fact, recent polling showed that 92% of Nevadans are concerned about inadequate water supplies in our state. It's critical that the state and some of our interim committees look at how we can do more robust planning for our water resources and make sure that we're coming up with solutions that work best for our state. Thank you.
Go ahead.
Good afternoon. My name is Alexandria Canito with Womble Bond Dickinson on behalf of Community Association Institute. We are in support of this bill. Thank you so much.
You? Anybody else here in Carson City? Not seeing any, so we'll move to Las Vegas. We have 3 chairs there, so we're gonna try to keep the testimony as close to on the bill as we can, if you will. And then we'll have 2 minutes. I'll try to give as much latitude as we can, but try to keep your comments in the 2 minutes. So whoever's gonna be first, go ahead and start.
For the record, my name's Norm Schilling. I'm an arborist and horticulturalist here in Southern Nevada. I've been doing it for 35 years. I do a radio show on our NPR station about gardening in the valley. I worked for the LVVWD, the Water District, for almost 10 years. As the lead groundskeeper, I took care of their well site reservoirs, and later on I took care of the desert demonstration gardens. I was part of the original team that instituted the turf reduction programs back in the 90s. I am an environmentalist. I am also here as an advocate for the trees of Southern Nevada. The trees are the most important thing, especially the heritage trees in our valley, in combating both global and local warming. Trees are often dependent on the grass in which they grow. Trees spread out their root systems like the spokes of a wheel, often extending 1.5 to as much as 4 times canopy diameter. The removal of grass, which is sometimes referred to as non-functional turf around the base of these trees, is devastating to them. I do literally probably over 1,000 consultations across the valley. I travel all over the valley. I teach and I educate, and I have watched the absolute decimation and degradation of our urban forest to a degree that I've never imagined possible. This has been occurring because of these really draconian laws that have been put in, or ordinances that have been put in place by the SNWA and the LVVWD through their heavy propaganda and millions of dollars that they spent pushing their agenda. But the unintended consequences to our valley are huge economically, environmentally, and for our quality of life. The heritage trees that we have, one large tree, they're kind of whitewashing this or greenwashing it by saying,
And
oh, we're going to pay you.
We're at our 2 minutes, so if you can wrap up here real quick,
Okay.
please.
Well, one last thing I want to say is the excessive use charges, which are absolutely huge, have caused many of my customers to have to make the choice between, do I kill my trees or do I pay my mortgage? They're killing their trees, and they weep. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Betsy Slight, BETSY SLIGHT. I'm a homeowner in Henderson, an avid gardener, and a landscape designer specializing in water-smart landscapes. I strongly support SB 143. Our mature trees must be maintained with adequate water. People should not have to choose between watering their existing trees or being fined. A tree provides beauty and value to the homeowner, but also their neighbors and the entire community. Aside from their natural beauty, trees provide important shade to humans, animals, and other plant life. They provide shelter for birds and insects. They clean our air. Please help us protect our trees. Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Diane Henry, DIANEHENRY. I'm a member of the Water Fairness Coalition, but I'm speaking today as a private citizen. To the detriment of many, there's been clear overreach by the Southern Nevada Water Authority in many of their policies. Their septic waiver program is a noteworthy example. In 2023, AB 220 outlawed new septic systems. Since then, property owners on municipal water but without access to sewer have languished. Their land had become worthless. They couldn't build, but they couldn't sell. Thankfully, there was a safety net in AB 220 for waivers, but where were these waivers? SNWA has been stalling for almost 2 years, details of which have been provided to you as Exhibit 1. But for the record, I would like to amend that public comment. Exhibit 1 stated that the septic waiver application was buried on the SNWA website, which was correct. You had to use the menu bar on the left, not the search bar on the right, click on rebates, coupons, and programs, then under septic to sewer conversion programs, click on septic waiver request, and you'd find the application. But SNWA has added a search link for it to snwa.com, so I would like to amend my comment, please. But the fact remains that if the legislative intent of AB 220 was to provide waivers as a safety net for afflicted property owners, SNWA has not done a good job of it. There is little transparency as well as major overreach with many of their policies. SB 143, I hope, will help correct that by providing oversight. I support SB 143, and I thank Senator Wynn and this committee for this important bill. Thank you.
Thank you. Whoever's next?
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman. I'm Robert Gompers. Last name is spelled Gomperz, and I am also here to represent just myself, who happens to be a retired manager of public affairs at the Metropolitan Water District of Southern California. I was employed there for 17 years before I retired and moved to Las Vegas about 15 years ago. I served 10 years as an elected member of the Foothill Municipal Water District, and I'm in my 35th year of board membership at the Lincoln Avenue Mutual Water Company in fire-ravaged Altadena. So I know a few things about proper water policy development and administration. The Las Vegas Valley Water District was created in 1947 by NRS 167 at a time when there were less than 25,000 residents in this valley. The water supply came from wells, and in 1954, the legislature installed a partisan-elected Clark County Commission as the district's governing board. In 1990, the Southern Nevada Water Authority, through additional legislation, became the wholesaler of Colorado River water in Clark County. Rather than stumble through the alphabet soup of its Clark County water agencies, I refer to them simply as the water cartel. In the lower Colorado River Basin, Nevada is the only state whose primary policymakers on water issues are not elected to water boards or water commissions, but have inherited those very crucial offices by an outdated legislative fiat. Water is a critical matter for the current and future health of this region. Water agencies should have their own popularly elected, nonpartisan citizen policy boards, not a self-appointed group elected to a different office. Clark County commissioners also serve on a variety of other community agencies. The chair of the two major water cartel boards is on 9 boards.
You're at your 2 minutes, if you can wrap up.
All right. The road to this governance change is necessary, and it's only through the state legislature, which 78 years ago set up what worked then, but is now a non-representative, dysfunctional system. It is time for
your time's
the
up.
change.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Carol Reynolds,
Okay,
REY.
One second, before we start. So we have a bill in front of us, and I know people are upset with the Water Authority, but the bill is not about the Water Authority. So if you have comments in support of the bill, I'm willing to hear that. If you're just going to say how horrible the Water Authority is, that's not the subject to the bill. So please stick to the subject to the bill, will you? If you can do that, I'll be happy. So please proceed.
In trying to convey to you the enormity of what has transpired in Las Vegas with the enactment of water policies since 2023, it is difficult to overstate the level of hardship and disruption delivered by SNWA to Las Vegas residents. The water rate increases and excessive use fees have been life-changing for many. The surreptitious process caught everyone by surprise. It was thought initially that once board members and water authorities understood the drastic financial, environmental, and health ramifications, there would be a more measured approach with a willingness to include residents, horticulturists, environmentalists, etc., in studying ways to maintain quality of life for all residents while ensuring an adequate water supply. That has not happened. Local residents have appealed to water authorities for 2 years in their public board meetings to pause and reconsider the implementation of these punitive policies and to study their effects. People have turned out to speak about using egg timers for showers so their family can afford the water to properly care for an elderly relative. A woman told of having to move since she could not pay the water bill at her rented house. People have sheepishly spoken about monitoring toilet flushes while expressing horror that their neighborhoods are now blighted with dead trees and abandoned landscaping. They are desperately trying to save their yards and the tens of thousands of dollars invested in them. Perhaps the most disturbing story of all is the Spring Valley High School football player who was burned on the artificial turf athletic field during practice. The litany of stories offered by residents has fallen on deaf ears, so I urge you to carefully study the water issues with all disciplines to avoid irreversible damage to our city and its residents. It is for these reasons that I support SB 143.
Thank you.
Good afternoon, Vice Chairman and members of the committee that are still here. Thank you for allowing us this opportunity to come before you today. My name is Yvette Williams, and I am chair of the Clark County Black Caucus, but I want to just say that I'm not speaking on behalf of the caucus today. I'm speaking as a resident of District 3. Senator Wynn is my senator, thank God. I am speaking today in support of this bill. I would like, though, to say on the record that I would much rather see, instead of may evaluate and review issues, shall evaluate and review issues, and also to include other policies that has been implemented by SNWA and LVVWD related to these various issues that are in the bill already, but also to include others such as the excessive fees costing the community tons of money. It's unfair. Only the city of Las Vegas residents, only those who in unincorporated Clark County are suffering those excessive fees. I want to say this. I had most recently a visitor come into the neighborhood with a young child. They were looking for another neighbor in the community. And she knocked on my door and I answered. And first thing she said to me is, "Oh my God, birds singing. I don't get to hear birds sing anymore." That was telling in itself. The other thing is my backyard is a certified wildlife habitat. We are helping to support this ecosystem that's so fragile here in the desert. We have to protect our urban canopy. We have to protect our smallest inhabitants here if we want to survive. The other thing is our trees in our older neighborhoods are struggling. I go to my neighborhood park, Davis Park, and I'm looking at our tree canopy disappear before my eyes. We've lived in our home for 22 years, and it's very sad to see. I'm seeing my neighbors and I'm getting emotional, but I'm seeing my neighbors leave in droves from my community. And it's heartbreaking to think that my community that I moved here 20, almost 30 years ago is being destroyed by bad policy and a lack of oversight. And so I am just saying to our legislature, we have elected you to represent us and to fight for us. We ask you to fight for us today and save us from these horrendous policies.
Thank you.
Good afternoon, Tara Anderson for the record. I'm here to speak specifically to the language pertaining to the excessive use charges and the oversight terms of this this bill that I am in support of. For context, I've spent a career of over 20 years in economic and real estate development. And the current conduct of SNWA and the Las Vegas Valley Water District defy all rules of engagement for real estate development. Whenever something new is built or erected, a development plan requires evaluation of the capacity of any utilities that will be consumed or burdened by the introduction of a new development, whether it's retail, office, industrial, hospitality, and residential. And the development standards for each of those asset classes are unique. And however, the SNWA is trying to apply a universal standard across all residential products, and that defies development code. You have different components, whether it's single-family homes, condos, townhomes, ranch-style homes, et cetera, and these need to be treated according to the policies of development standards. More importantly, when something is approved for development, a will serve letter is granted and issued by the utility provider to the owner of that property in perpetuity. The actions taken by the SNWA to impugn us with these penalties is a retroactive taking. If that's not overreach by the body of our water authorities, I don't know what is. But a taking of private property after will serves have been provided is unacceptable and requires additional oversight. The other thing is this is suffocating diverse residential offerings and the quality of life within our community. Additionally, when it comes to safety, urban studies will show that the absence of landscaping and trees are the first signs of urban blight and consequently rises in crime rates. So this is not just an ecological issue, it is a quality of life and well-rounded safety issue. Furthermore, we in Southern Nevada, one last comment, sir.
2 minutes.
Promise.
Wrap up,
Yep.
please. Yep.
My one last comment is, on a safety component side of this, traffic studies are performed with new development. Trees are known to be one of the most significant traffic calming components when considering new development. So please consider this bill and the quality of life impacts that it will have on our community. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Christopher Allen, last name Allen, and I'm in support of AB 143. The residents of Las Vegas need your help in saving our trees and saving our quality of life. Real grass around trees is necessary for old, mature trees to survive. And the excessive usage fees are wildly unfair and the direct cause of Las Vegas losing thousands and thousands of trees, very, very mature trees. I support AB 143. Thank you.
Go ahead.
Okay, my name is Louis Grandieri, Grandieri. I'm in support of SB 143. There are issues with turf, artificial turf, in that temperatures can exceed 200 degrees Fahrenheit on a 98-degree Fahrenheit day. Synthetic turf is always significantly hotter than natural grass, concrete, and asphalt, and greatly concerning. There's a study done by New Jersey Work Environment Council, fact sheet, be aware of artificial turf hazards, in which there are toxic materials, latex and other rubbers in the materials, and also there's a short life to artificial grass in that it will only last 5 to 10 years, and then you have disposal of it, and which you can have 120 tons of crumbling rubber, 26,000 recycled tires. Crumb rubber takes about 25 years to break down completely. I don't know how you're going to get they're taking grass out from schools and putting in artificial turf. I don't know how you're going to keep it clean. You've got birds that will be dropping their droppings on this grass, and so it has to be cleaned off somehow. So that there's water is going to be needed to clean off these areas at the schools. UNLV did an environment and quality of life study that's available online, and there was also a heat study done in conjunction with the RTC in Las Vegas, measuring heat islands within that's available online as well that you can look at. And it shows how you have large heat islands in places where
And we're
trees and
we're
grass have been taken out.
2 minutes if you can wrap up.
Okay. There's EPA studies saying using trees and vegetation to reduce heat islands as well, available online and for your perusal. Thanks very much.
Thank you.
My name is Brian Wignall. I'm here to speak in support of SB 143. Yesterday, my wife tried to enter comments on this bill through Nellis. She was asking for any approved research on artificial turf to include the impact on wildlife that both artificial grass and our current water restriction policies are having. There seems to have been a problem as her comments included photographs and research citations. According to her research, including photographs and public comments about legislation in Nevada, is allowed as long as they are relevant to the topic and do not violate copyright or privacy laws. The photos included were taken personally and in public areas and comply with copyright and privacy laws. These photos were included to allow committee members to see firsthand the impact our policies are having on wildlife. She also learned that there is no prohibition on citing research in public comments in Nevada, but it is crucial to ensure citations are accurate and properly attributed. She did both because now more than ever, with so much misinformation being presented as fact, it is important to cite legitimate sources to validate statements. Today, I'm joining my wife in submitting an edited version of these comments without photos or research citations. This has been confusing and frustrating experience in trying to exercise civic duty, especially as one would think that adding the knowledge base of our legislature would result in better outcomes. In deference to the wishes of the legal counsel and with the respect to this committee, I encourage more clarity and better communication of what is and what is not acceptable in submitting comments for the future. Thank you for your time. And I'd like to be able to submit the comments. These were the redacted photos and things that if I can submit those separately would be great.
You can submit them to our staff down there, and anybody else who wasn't able to finish their comments can also turn in the rest of their written comments to that.
Thank you.
Next speaker. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Amelia Wignall, and I am here in support of SB 143. Las Vegas is located on the route of the Pacific Flyway, a major migration route for thousands of birds traveling between Alaska and Canada and California to Mexico and South America. Every spring and fall, these birds include ducks and geese pass through southern Nevada looking for places to stop and rest and refuel during their journeys. However, as urban sprawl increases, we are failing to provide even the most basic stopover habitats. Last year, a yellow-billed loon, one of the 10 rarest birds that breed on the mainland of the United States, was found in the fountains of the Bellagio, making international headlines and halting the resort's fountain shows. Why? Because the city's expanding artificial landscapes have left migratory birds with nowhere else to go. For over 20 years, we've observed migrating geese and ducks gather to rest under trees on grassy slopes of Canyon Gate Country Club in Spring Valley. Last year, the grass on the slopes was removed, and without grass, it is negatively affecting wildlife and migratory and residential birds and other wildlife in this area. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Vice Chair and members of the committee. My name is Eric Jang, ERICJENG. I'm the Executive Director of One API in Nevada, standing for Asian Pacific Islander Americans. And I just want to urge the committee, one of my college youth fellow, Erica Estasio, submitted her support testimony. It's great with her personal story and why we should support SB 143. So in the end, I just want to say thank you to Senator Wen for proposing this bill and to invest in studying water conservation. We urge for your support. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, seeing no other comments in support in Las Vegas or Carson, broadcast will go to the phones.
If you would like to testify in support of SB 143, please press *9 or raise hand in your Zoom window to take your place in the queue.
Yes. Thank you. Nobody even fucking talked about the bill.
Good afternoon, Vice Chairman, members of the committee. My name is Robert Coache, C-O-A-C-H-E. I'm a former deputy state engineer with the state of Nevada. I have over 4 decades of experience in water resources in both public and private sectors. Today, I'm here to represent myself in support of SB 143. Southern Nevada Water Authority comprises 7 different agencies from the Clark County region, with each agency appointing 1 representative to the SNWA board. Although the SNWA board provides broad representation or board representation, the SNWA executive team is the same as the executive team of the Las Vegas Valley Water District, whom is the municipal water purveyor for the city of Las Vegas proper, which results in a lack of oversight regarding the actions of the Las Vegas Valley Water District. For example, while you've heard it already today, but while all residents of the Las Vegas Valley and surrounding areas rely on the same allocation of water from the Colorado River, ratepayers within the Las Vegas Valley Water District service area are subjected to disproportionately high fees compared to ratepayers and other agencies that draw from the same water source. I fully endorse the evaluation, review, and subsequent oversight and transparency of water conservation efforts in the Las Vegas Valley concerning the use of water from the Colorado River. Thank you for your time and consideration. Respectfully, Bob Coache. Thank you.
Broadcasting, is there anyone
Caller
else?
with the number, yes, caller with the number ending in 475. Your line is unmuted. Please go ahead.
Caller, please ensure that your phone is unmuted on your side. You are live and unmuted.
Oh, hi. Can you hear me? This is Dion Blaney.
Yes, we can hear you.
Blaney. I am a native Las Vegan. I fully support SB 143. I want to thank the committee for allowing us to speak today, and specifically want to thank all of the people that presented and Senator Wynn for bringing this bill forward. I'm very concerned with the recent loss. The number of trees that have been lost throughout the valley is disturbing on many levels. And I also wanted to share a story, a personal story that happened to a friend of ours who was driving down Fort Apache. A dead tree where the grass had been removed underneath the tree fell on her car and nearly killed her and her daughter. The car was totaled, and it was quite scary. I live in an older community where there's still some natural turf. We have trees. We've applied for a waiver to keep some of this grass. We were denied and told that some of the grass had to be removed that is on the slopes. Those areas have trees that provide shade. We were also denied some smaller areas where families gather every evening with their children, and it is functional turf. So I'm very upset about that. Our board is getting ready to spend over $120,000 from our reserve to make some of these so-called necessary conversions, and that will not even accommodate all of what the Southern Nevada Water Authority wants us to take out. It will completely deplete our reserves. There was no time to budget for this, for the board to budget. So I'm concerned on many levels for the future of my community, for the future of my city, for the future of Las Vegas. My children and my grandchildren are third generation, and I feel like the habitability of Las Vegas is being jeopardized. I also feel like time is of the essence. We don't have a lot of time. Laura's been working on this for 2 years, and
I'm so
again,
sorry to
thank
interrupt
you
you.
to
We are
everyone.
at 2 minutes. So if you could wrap up your comments.
Okay. Thank you. That's it. Time is of the essence. I just would like to see if we could get this fast tracked.
Thank you.
Caller with the last three digits of 120. Your line is unmuted and you're ready to go ahead, please. Caller, please unmute your phone by pressing *6 to engage in the conversation.
Sorry about that. Thank you so much. My name is Lisa Ortega, Ortega. I would like to thank the presenters and the Senate Committee on Legislative Operations and Elections. We appreciate voices and also ears and all those things. My name is Lisa. I am a master arborist in the state of Nevada, and I've been working with trees for the last 25 years. And I'm wondering, can there be exceptions for trees? Can there be exceptions for large canopy? Our trees are dying, and anything that we could do to keep that canopy is absolute music to my ears. Many times, as you probably know, trees and grass typically don't make the transition. Roots are torn off within the first foot, and we're losing trees at a rate in my career like I've never seen. Our ash and pine are about 25% of our population of trees, and you know they're dying all along the valley. Hotter temperatures are leading to more deaths, and heat-related sicknesses are filling our hospitals, and I'm sure you know of those things with the health district. I think it would be wonderful to figure out a way to not tear out all the turf where we have very large populations of trees. These are keeping the RTC map green, and I do worry that these changes will move those green spots on the RTC map to red. And I'm with Nevada Plants. We're planting trees like crazy, but we're talking 5-6 years to even get any kind of a nice shade with those. And so I'm just worrying about constituents and worrying about folks in the interim. So if there's anything that you can do to help save trees in turf grass as an exception, I'm all about that, and I appreciate it, and thanks for all you do.
Caller with the phone number ending in 632, please press *6 to unmute your phone and you may begin.
Good afternoon. My name is Dr. Robert Hilsman, MD, and I reside at 2740 South Pioneer Way. That's in Las Vegas, Clark County, Nevada. If we hope to fight the urban heat island effect in any meaningful way, we must allow for grass under mature trees and on slopes to remain. Greater than 500 deaths were registered last summer, with heat as a major factor in each of these events. My current property supports on 1 acre, 1.25 acres, 177 numbered trees, which combined with the grass and bushes through the natural process of photosynthesis converts CO2 into H2O and oxygen. If we care about our severely polluted air, we have to support the retention of plants. Section 10 in Clark County, where I reside, is surrounded by 4 urban highways, Rainbow, Desert Inn, Sahara, and Buffalo, with multiple lanes and cars traveling at 50 to 55 miles an hour during rush hour, requiring multiple light cycles to clear the lights at Rainbow and DI plus Spring Mountain. In the past few years, mainly because we have minimum lot sizes in section 10 of 1/2 acre, we've seen many properties allow their beautiful mature trees die because the property owners simply could not afford to water them. Asking us to pull out our grass to replace it with desert landscaping and artificial turf massively increases the amount of plastic in our environment. Recent research shows that those of us aged greater than age 50 have approximately the equivalent of 1 plastic spoon accumulated in our brains. And remember, we recreated on natural grass. Our offspring can be expected to have much more in their brains. Remember also that these artificial fields attain summer temperatures well above 150 degrees, which requires us to then water it to cool it, to avoid second-degree burns and to remove all the contaminants. After less than a decade, they are sent to our already at capacity landfills to further contaminate our environment. As a medical doctor, the other consideration is that the ground up car tires that are used to soften the impact on players. And sadly, if you watch closely, every time you see a player hit the artificial turf,
Sorry to interrupt you,
you'll see a
Doctor.
puff.
We are at 2
Yep.
minutes, so if you could wrap up your comments.
I will wrap it up. So I want to make sure that everybody recognizes that when you play in these fields, fine particles of the ground up rubber tires are ingested by the people. We now have a recognized number of cases of lung cancer frequently appearing in young high school and college soccer goalies, which are the direct result of this inhalation. Thank you very much. I appreciate everybody. Thank you.
Hi, this is Al Lasso, Lasso from Las Vegas. And I just want to echo the other callers who called in support of SB 143. I think it's nice to hear our legislature is starting to address the draconian water rules that have been put in place in Nevada. And I thank Senator Wynn for doing so. And I hope there's more hearings like this to address some of the other issues that the Water District has burdened us with. So I thank you, and that's all I wanted to say.
Caller, you're unmuted. Please proceed.
Hi there. This is John Rando. And we want to
I think we lost you, Mr. Rando. Broadcasting, I'm not sure if we lost the connection, but please call back, Mr. Rando, if you can hear me.
Caller, can you please press *6 to mute your line? Thank you, Chair. We'll move on to the next caller. Please stand by. Caller with the phone number ending in 490, please press *6 to unmute your line. You're ready to speak. Caller with the phone number ending in 490, press *6 to unmute your phone and continue.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. Please state your name.
Hello?
Yes, we can hear you. Please state your name for the record.
Yes, CYRUS HOJJ8. I am the team leader of the Las Vegas local chapter of Strong Towns Urban Planning Organization. We're fighting against urban heat island effects. This bill will help a lot. Las Vegas is the fastest warming city. Thank you so much for this opportunity, and please get the job done. Yield my time.
If you have recently joined and would like to speak on in support of SB 143, please press star 9 or raise your hand in your Zoom window to take your place in the queue.
Open session settings, Zoom.
Please go
Caller,
ahead,
you are
caller.
unmuted.
Thank you. Hi, my name is John Rando. And I would like to testify in favor of this bill. It reminds me of the old joke, what do you call 1,000 lawyers at the bottom of the ocean? A good start. And I think that this is going to be a really, really good start. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. The public line is open and working. There are no more callers wishing to testify in support at this time.
Thank you. And there are at least two attorneys in this room I know who didn't take too favorably to that comment. And then with that, we'll close support for Senate Bill 143, and we'd like to go to opposition. Anyone who'd like to speak in opposition to the measure, either in Carson City or Las Vegas, please come forward. Okay, I'm not seeing anyone come forward. Broadcasting, is there anyone on the phone lines in opposition?
If you would like to testify in opposition to SB 143, please press star 9 or raise your hand in the Zoom window to take your place in the queue. The public line is open and working. There are no callers at this time.
Thank you very much. With that, we'd like to move to neutral. Anyone who's neutral on the measure and wishes to be heard, either here in Carson City or down in Las Vegas. Good evening. Thank you for your patience. Mr. Belanger, thanks for joining us.
Thank you, Chair Orenshaw, Vice Chair Daley, members of the committee. We appreciate the opportunity to speak on SB 143. First of all, I want to just thank the sponsor of this bill for her work on this issue and for her dogged support of her constituents and the work that they do. And we appreciate the reason for the bill and why it's there. We support the provisions of this bill. We think that it makes sense to have the Joint Interim Standing Committee of Natural Resources review water conservation efforts and provide that information to the next legislative session if they have recommendations. We think that makes sense for that committee to look at that. I will note, and Mr. Sturm might remember this from 2003, but then Senator Amodei had a bill to put the Water Authority under the oversight of the Public Lands Committee. And that has worked well. It has given an opportunity for us to provide information to the legislature for much of the last 22 years. And that has worked, but that committee is now focused mostly on rural issues. And so we did our last presentation to that committee in Shores, Nevada. And it didn't give an opportunity for people to show up in Las Vegas or Reno or Carson City and provide comment. So having the interim committee do this will help make sure that there's accessibility for people who want to provide comment. The study by NDP, I think, will help provide a source of information that is unbiased and allow for there to be good recommendations on what the state wants to do on artificial turf. I will note that Southern Nevada has been in a drought and aridification for much of the last 25 years. We have worked hard to make sure that the community's water supply is there for its current and future residents. And we will want to make sure that the rationale for why we have done things is presented to the Joint Interim Standing Committee so that they can have that information and they can make informed choices about what we did and why we did it. And with that, I'm happy to answer any questions offline. I know I got two more bill presentations tonight, so happy to talk to anybody if you have questions about what you heard today.
Thank you very much for the presentation. Members, any questions for Mr. Belanger from Southern Nevada Water Authority? Thank you very much for your presentation. Appreciate it. Anyone else who's neutral on the measure who wishes to be heard? Don't see anyone coming forward in Carson City or Las Vegas. Broadcasting, is there anyone on the phone lines who's neutral on the measure who wishes to be heard?
If you would like to testify in neutral for SB 143, please press star 9 or raise your hand in your Zoom window to take your place in the queue. Thank you, Chair. The public line is open and working. There are no callers wishing to testify in neutral for SB 143 at this time.
Thank you very much, Broadcasting. And to our sponsor, thank you for presenting SB 143 today, and we appreciate your presentation. Any closing comments you'd like to make?
I appreciate the time and effort. I'm surprised by the support of this bill, but I think that is telling of the real issue that you have. You have a lot of people that are passionate about protecting their community, protecting the tree canopies, protecting their landscape that is not just there for decorative purposes, but also provides cleaner air, safer places for their kids to play in, and is just a part of our community that needs to be considered in any policies that we make regarding everything from water rates to artificial turf. So I appreciate your time and I appreciate this committee's patience in listening to all of the people that came today to testify.
Thank you very much for this timely presentation on the bill. Certainly down in Southern Nevada, we face so many challenges with the heat island effect, air pollution, and our drought, and trying to balance everything. Thank you very much, Senator Nguyen, and thank you to all the presenters who took time to come up to Carson City and down at the new Las Vegas LCB office. Thank you. With that, we'll close the hearing on Senate Bill 143. And before we open the hearing on Senate Bill 414, members, I received a bill draft. It's BDR R-1163, declares April 2025 as Financial Literacy Month. I'd be looking for a motion and a second to introduce it. Motion and second, a vote for the bill draft does not commit anyone to supporting it in terms of policy. Is there a motion to for introduction of BDR R-1163?
Move to introduce.
A motion from Senator Daley.
Second.
Second from Senator Krasner. Any discussion on the motion? See no discussion. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Madam Secretary, please note that it passed with 3 ayes, Senator Krasner, Vice Chair Daley, and myself, and Senator Steinbeck and the Majority Leader excused. With that, I'd like to open the hearing on Senate Bill 414. We are very lucky to have Senator Scheibel here to present, and thank you for joining us today. Thank you, Senator Scheibel. Thank you for joining us. Please begin whenever you'd like.
Thank you so much. I do not have a PowerPoint. I just wanted to make sure we got back to square one here on the television and the computer. For the record, my name is Melanie Scheibel. I am the state senator for District 9. I represent Southwest Las Vegas, and it is my pleasure to be here today presenting SB 414 to you this afternoon. SB 414 does a couple of different things that are intended to promote fairness and transparency in our government. The first thing that, and let me just pull up the language of SB 404 414 as we discuss this. So, the first section of SB 414 is intended to close what I would describe as a loophole. Under the current Nevada statutes, every elected official is required to disclose their financial interests in any private companies, but that is capped at a portion of the stocks, an amount of the company that is greater than 1% of the business. Well, today, there are many large multi-billion-dollar corporations that people own stock in, and they may own significant amounts of stock in the orders of tens of thousands of dollars, millions of dollars worth of stock in a company, but it still might not rise to the level of being 1% of that company. So what SB 414 purports to do is to create a cap or a minimum to say that if you have stock that is worth $5,000 or more in any particular company, you do have to disclose that you have a financial interest in that company. I think this also brings fairness to the law because today, we have this kind of disproportionate enforcement where you might own 100% of your small family business that is only worth a couple, tens of thousands of dollars, maybe $100,000, and you have to disclose that. Whereas somebody else who's in a similarly situated position in terms of being an elected official might have millions of dollars invested in another company that they don't have to disclose simply because the company is so large. This puts everybody on a fair playing field by saying whether it is more than 1% of the company or more than $5,000 worth of stock in the company, you have to disclose that. The second thing that SB 414 does is it provides transparency for inaugural committees. Inaugural committees, I'm sure you're familiar with them, but I want to make sure that we're being clear on the record about what we're talking about. When our constitutional officers are elected here in the state of Nevada, there's a period of time between when they are actually elected in November and when they take office in January that they're preparing to take over their offices, that they are getting things ready to become the new governor, the new lieutenant governor, the new state controller. And during that time, constitutional officers are able to open inaugural committees. Inaugural committees function in a kind of gray area right now. And so the purpose of SB 414 is to bring them into the fold and ensure that we have transparency when it comes to inaugural committees and that they're treated more like campaign committees or like PACs, political action committees. What SB 414 says is that any inaugural committee will be subject to the same reporting requirements as a candidate or a political action committee, wherein they have to disclose contributions made in excess of $1,000, whether it's a single contribution or the accumulation of contributions over $1,000, as well as report out any expenditures over $1,000. Those reports would have to be made quarterly, just like they are for candidates, and there would be an annual renewal of their registration with the Secretary of State. The reason that we're trying to do this in SB 414 is because the inaugural committees have kind of fallen through the cracks. They've become a tool that could be utilized to make political expenditures or expenditures that would otherwise be considered political, except that they're not coming from a campaign committee bank account or from a PAC bank account. But inaugural committees are not limited in the types of work that they do. While we might normally think of an inaugural committee being propped up and funded in order to buy tablecloths for an inaugural ball or to hire a DJ for an inauguration party, there's nothing that stops a candidate from using their inaugural committee to run ads against an opponent, to do research on an opponent, to do outreach to constituents or potential voters. And so if people are going to be utilizing inaugural committees for these purposes, it is only fair to us as voters that we're able to understand where that money is coming from and where that money is going. So that is what the thrust of sections 3 through 6 do of the bill. And then the rest of the bill makes conforming changes throughout the NRS to include the inaugural committees in the laws that affect political action committees and campaign committees. And with that, I would be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you very much for the presentation, Senator Scheibel. Members, any questions on Senate Bill 414? Senator Daley.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. A couple of questions in Section 1, and you're good on the presentation, and I understand the value of $5,000. So hopefully there'll be some regulation or some more stuff on that. I mean, for me, I have not a great deal of money, but we have investments, personal investments, and it's managed by, I wouldn't know if we had $5,000 or more in any one particular company. And that may change. Maybe I went over for a little bit and then I came back down. I don't know. So you're anticipating this applying to if you have a money guy and he's doing your thing, that there's how much knowledge do we have to have and when? Because that, to me, it's just going to be a big question to ask him once a year, I guess.
Melanie Scheibel for the record, and thank you, Senator Daley, for the question. Through you, Chair Orenthal.
Please go direct to the Vice Chair and all members. Thank you.
Thank you. So I absolutely understand your question, and I think you started it by asking if there would be regulations, and that would be my assumption. I think, we have a choice in this building to be especially prescriptive or to be more general when we bring forward legislation, and I chose in this instance to be more general and allow for regulations to fill in the gaps to say, to your point, that some disclosure is necessary, and it should be related to the amount of knowledge that a candidate has. So, for example, if you're invested in mutual funds, it's my intention with the legislation that you'd be able to list those mutual funds. You wouldn't have to break out all of the different, companies that are part of that fund. We'd be able to simply list the mutual fund.
Any follow-up, Vice Chair?
Yes, and I have a different question on a different subject. And thank you. I just know, thinking back to when I still worked at the union, there were some provisions in federal law and various things on things that we had to disclose as union members on our LM reporting, for Labor Management Reporting Disclosure Act forms, right? And they had exclusions for some of that stuff on, if you own some of this stuff, but if it was part of a managed portfolio, they didn't. And I was just curious how that was going to work out, because it would just be a question that a new thing for me that we would have to do, which I'm not saying is a bad thing either. I understand the disclosure on that. The second question, if I can, Mr. Chair, was in.
Please go ahead.
Section 4, and I know we're defining inaugural committee. And when I first read it, my mind always goes to, so well, how would I get around that by just not calling it inaugural committee? Are we going to have to say, hey, these are the things, and you mentioned a time period, but they can continue after that time period, continue to take contributions. So it's not like it's narrowed down to just between election day and when they actually take office. And everybody's thinking of the inaugural committees and the parties and the balls and all that kind of stuff. But you mentioned all the other things. So did we capture a broad enough definition so that there's not, what are some of the activities they might do that we might capture in that definition?
Melanie Scheibel for the record, Senate District 9. And again, thank you for the question, Senator Daly. I think that certainly I'm always open to amendments and further conversations. And part of the reason for bringing the bill was that it was a little bit difficult to pin down what makes an inaugural committee an inaugural committee. And so to your point, it doesn't have to be founded after an election. It doesn't have to be closed after inauguration. And so by making the purpose of it to be any committee that making expenditures for the inauguration of a constitutional officer, I'm hoping that we would not have people getting around it by calling it a welcoming committee or introduction committee, whatever. If the committee is also participating in those pre-inauguration activities and expending money in anticipation of a constitutional officer's inauguration, then it would be an inaugural committee.
And, one quick follow-up, and I see Mr. Woloshyn back here as well. It seems to me, and maybe he can comment to that some of the activities you said that there might be doing, advocating, advertising, putting out political campaigns, that would already be captured in the definitions of what a political action committee can and can't and shouldn't be doing. So if they're doing those things and not already reporting as a political action committee, I think there's actionable violations of the law there myself. But if they're skirting around this, I agree. And I don't have any suggested language. I just was thinking, can we make it broader? I do know when I had a bill 2 years ago on the false electors, and I said, hey, you can't do this. I know the AG's office came and said, what are the acts that we're trying to stop them from doing? And that's when they define it. It's turning in the certificate to the Secretary of State, sending the document to the archives building and those types of things. Those are the actions we're trying to capture. That's the only thing I was thinking in the definition is what are the acts that we want to capture? So some of it's already covered in law and they're violating potentially anyway.
Thank you very much, Vice Chair Daly. Thank you, Senator Scheibel. Senator Krasner?
Chair, thank you for your presentation. My concern is just the same as Senator Daly brought up about the $5,000. When you have somebody investing money for you, it changes like daily. So you don't know how much of one stock you have today, and it could change tomorrow, and then if you report that, it's wrong, and then it's a lie, and I see some real concerns with that. Thank you.
Melanie Scheibel for the record, and thank you, Senator Krasner, for the question. I think going back to my previous answer, there is a balance to be struck, and I think that it could be further fleshed out in code or in regulations. I think, excuse me, it's also valuable to know that your elected officials or your candidates are investing their money somewhere. And even if that is a mutual fund, even if it is a managed portfolio, I think that we can strike a balance between requiring the disclosure of the existence of that portfolio and whatever guidelines you've given to your financial manager in order to ensure that voters have adequate information about an individual who might be serving and their interests, their financial interests. And so I think that there is room there for reasonable regulations and codes to be written that would address both the reality of people utilizing financial advisors and not knowing, to the penny where all of their money is invested, but balancing that with people making conscious decisions about where they put their money and what types of funds they put their money in. And there are still those candidates and those elected officials who are simply buying stock in one particular company. And I think that voters have a right to know if their elected official or the candidate who is asking for their vote has invested more than $5,000 in one particular company. I think we deserve to know that.
Thank you very much, Senator Scheibel. Any other questions, members? Nope, not seeing any. Thank you so much for the presentation. With that, we'll go to support for Senate Bill 414. Anyone who'd like to speak in support of Senate Bill 414, either here in Carson City or down in Las Vegas, please come forward. I don't see anyone in either of the hearing rooms. Broadcasting, is there anyone on the phone lines in support of Senate Bill 414?
If you would like to testify in support of SB 414, please press star 9 to take your place in the queue. Chair, there are no callers wishing to testify in support at this time.
I'm sorry, I see someone at the Las Vegas hearing room. Please sit down, state your name for the record, and please proceed with your testimony. We're taking testimony in support of Senate Bill 414.
Yes, sorry, I am a little late because of another hearing, but thank you so much. Chair Orenshel and members of the Senate Committee on Legislative Operations and Elections. My name is Anahit Baghshetsen. For the record, that is ANAHITBAGHSHETSYAN, and I'm a research assistant at Nevada Policy. Nevada Policy supports Senate Bill 414 today. We see it as a critical step towards strengthening transparency and accountability, which is the most important link between the public and the government. SB 414 ensures that voters have a clear picture of potential conflicts of interest when it comes to their elected officials. The requirement to disclose business holdings is not only based on stock percentage, but also the monetary threshold, closes the loophole that Senator Scheibel just mentioned earlier. And the financial disclosure laws in Nevada would become much more in line with the best practices of governmental accountability if the legislature is passed. It also addresses the gap, once again, as Senator Scheibel mentioned, of the campaign finance laws with inaugural committees. So, and also by banning foreign contributions to inaugural committees, it ensures prevention of any foreign oversight and foreign power pools in the Nevada inaugural committees. So it is a simple fix to a very, very common problem that would increase public trust into our governmental system. For those reasons, we urge you to support the legislation, and thank you so very much.
Thank you very much for your testimony. Now, anyone else in support of Senate Bill 414 here in Carson City or down in Las Vegas? I'm not seeing anyone come forward. Broadcasting, can we go to the phone lines and testimony in support of Senate Bill 414?
Thank you, sir. There are no callers wishing to testify in support of 414 at this time.
Thank you. I'd like to now go to opposition. Anyone who's opposed to Senate Bill 414 who wishes to be heard either in Carson City or down in Las Vegas? Okay, I'm not seeing anyone come forward. Broadcasting, is there anyone on the phone lines who wishes to be heard in opposition to Senate Bill 414?
If you would like to testify in opposition to SB 414, please press star 9 to take your place in the queue. The public line is open and working. There are no callers wishing to testify in opposition to SB 414 at this time.
Thank you very much, Broadcasting. Anyone who's neutral on the measure who wishes to be heard either in Carson City or in Las Vegas? I don't see anyone coming forward. Broadcasting, is there anyone who's neutral on Senate Bill 414 and wishes to be heard on the phone lines?
If you would
Hello,
like to-
everyone. Yes, may I go on?
Please go ahead.
Yes, please go ahead. Please state your name for the record
Yeah,
and proceed.
first of all, this is support. I just wanted to hear opposition in case if I missed something. Can I go on?
Yes, you're in support of Senate Bill 414. Yes, please go ahead, state your name for the record and proceed.
Yes, it is a good bill. There's a lot of good protections. My name is Cyrus Hojati, CyrusHojjaty. It's very important. I will ditto the previous commentator, and ironically, we're bringing this bill while the stock market crashed today. Thank you so much. Thanks for the sponsor. Yield my time.
If you have recently joined and would like to testify in neutral for SB 414, please press star 9 to take your place in the queue. Thank you, Chair. There are no callers wishing to testify in neutral for SB 414 at this time.
Thank you very much, Broadcasting. And to our sponsor, any closing comments you'd like to make? Well, thank you very much for presenting Senate Bill 414, Senator Scheibel. Really appreciate the bill and your presentation. With that, I'll close the hearing on Senate Bill 414, and I'd like to pass the gavel back to our Vice Chair. And I'm going to be presenting Senate Bill 422 along with a witness that we have on Zoom, I believe.
Oh, yeah? Oh, you got to open the hearing. I thought you did that already. Anyway, so we'll open the hearing on Senate Bill 442. Senator Orenshaw, please proceed.
Thank you very much, Vice Chair Daley, members of the Senate Committee on Legislative Operations and Elections. For the record, my name is James Orenshaw. I represent State Senate District 21 down in Southern Nevada. Thank you for hearing Senate Bill 422. This legislation has to do with registering to vote, either on Election Day or during the period of early voting, and try to make sure that if you are someone who is qualified to vote, obstacles are not going to stand in your way. Senate Bill 422 specifies certain requirements for proof of identity and residency for persons registering to vote during the early voting period or on Election Day. The Department of Motor Vehicles is required under this bill to establish extended hours just prior to the election to accommodate persons obtaining a driver's license or a Nevada identification card. As you are all familiar, elections and the right to vote are critical to our democracy and represent the core foundations of our free society. Certainly, it's one of the big themes our committee looks at all session. With that said, the measure before you today is brought forward with the intent to continue to provide voting access to citizens in our state. Senate Bill 422 deals with same-day voter registration. This is the process by which an eligible Nevada voter can register to vote or update their voter information at a polling location during early voting or on Election Day. The voter must then immediately cast their ballot when participating with same-day voter registration. Some of the reasons why people participate in same-day voter registration include They might have had a recent address change. The rate that people move within Nevada is relatively high. Perhaps they've had a legal name change. Maybe they got married, divorced, or had some other type of legal name change. People may become a United States citizen after the close of the voter registration deadline, or some may have recently moved from another state. According to the Department of Motor Vehicles driver's license surrender data in 2023, approximately 90,000 new Nevadans surrendered their out-of-state driver's license or identification in exchange for a Nevada license or Nevada identification card. According to the Secretary of State's election website, for the 2024 general election, over 27,488 Nevadans used same-day voter registration throughout the state. Of those 27,488 same-day registrants from the 2024 general election, 7,870 registered with the Democratic Party, 10,566 registered with the Republican Party, and the remainder were in the other category. Excluding online same-day registration, 16,099 of those new registrants were brand new voters, and 1,546 were updating existing registration information. I'm very lucky to have with me our Deputy Secretary of State for Elections, Mark Woloshyn, who's here to help with answering any technical questions. And on Zoom, Mr. Vice Chair, I have Emily Prasad Zamora, who's also here to help co-present the bill. In short, Senate Bill 422 deals with two components. First, it specifies the kind of documents that would satisfy proof of identity and proof of residency. Second, it asks for extended hours from the Department of Motor Vehicle in our state's two largest counties in terms of population, Clark County and Washoe County. This would allow people who do not have a Nevada driver's license or Nevada identification card to get one so that they can participate and vote. At this point, I'd like to briefly summarize the key portions of the bill. Senate Bill 422 requires a person to provide a driver's license or Nevada identification card issued by our state DMV, another state, the District of Columbia, or a territory of the United States, or a tribal identification card as proof of identity for purposes of registering to vote in person during the period for early voting on Election Day. If such proof of identity was not issued by the DMV or does not include the person's current residential address, the person must also provide proof of residency. The bill also allows original, electronic, or certified copies of certain documents that are not more than 60 days old to establish proof of residency. If a person who appears to vote does not have the required driver's license, identification card, or social security number, then the person is authorized to cast a provisional ballot upon completion of a written affirmation. The bill also requires the Department of Motor Vehicles in counties whose population is 100,000 or more, currently Clark and Washoe, to establish extended hours of operation for the 2 weeks immediately preceding the deadline, to register to vote by mail, and for 6 days following the day of certain elections, and allows a person during those same time periods to obtain or renew a driver's license or ID card without an appointment. Vice Chair, with your permission, I'd like to turn it over to Ms. Prasad Zamora, who's on Zoom, and then I'm happy to stand for any questions.
Yes, please proceed.
Thank you so much. Good evening, Vice Chair Daley and committee members. For the record, my name is Emily Prasad Zamora, and my last name is spelled PERSAUD-ZAMORA, and I'm the Executive Director of Silver State Voices, that also leads the Let Nevadans Vote Coalition. Today, I'm here to co-present SB 422. We'd like to thank Senator Orenshaw, my senator, for this opportunity. We're really excited to present this legislation because it updates one of our favorite policies, same-day voter registration, commonly referred to as SDR. My organization leads a nonpartisan election protection program, which includes a phone hotline and poll monitor program during the election seasons. Throughout this work, we help voters of all political parties throughout the entirety of Nevada navigate the election process to cast their ballots. SDR was established in 2019 through the passage of AB 345, sponsored by then Speaker Jason Frierson. Since then, we've seen SDR work for thousands of Nevadans across all political parties. As the senator mentioned, there are a variety of different reasons why folks use SDR. However, every election cycle, SDR is also the #1 topic our election protection program receives questions about. We believe that SDR can be strengthened to work better for Nevada voters, and that is our goal with SB 422. So how does SDR work? And how does SB 422 factor? Let's say that a voter is at a polling location and needs to register to vote or update their information. The election worker says, great, please show me your ID. The ID that the voter needs to provide must be a current and valid, that is unexpired, and it must be a driver's license or ID issued by the Nevada DMV. The license or ID must also have the voter's current address, and that license or ID serves as proof of identity and residency. Oh, sorry, having some technical difficulties here. If the voter's license or ID meets those two requirements, the voter is good to go and can vote immediately at that polling location. The SCR voter will technically be voting via a provisional ballot, but it will count as soon as their registration is verified. If the voter's ID is current and valid from the state of Nevada, so sorry, I lost my computer decided to be a little wild today. My apologies. If the voter's ID is current and valid for the Nevada DMV, but does not have the voter's current address per AB 345, the voter will have to show proof of residence, such as a utility bill. In the scenario in which SCR voter does not have a current and valid license or ID from the Nevada DMV, that's where it gets tricky, and that's what SB 422 aims to address. There are a couple of different scenarios that we frequently see on the field and have been asked about when it comes to SCR, and we just want to illustrate those for you all, for the committee. If the voter has a Nevada license or ID with their current address, but it's expired, in this case, the voter may use an interim document from the DMV. This is an existing policy originating from AB 345. What that looks like in practice, say a voter wants to do SCR during early voting or on election day, but does not realize that their ID has expired. They can go to the DMV to renew their license and ID. In that interaction, they're given an interim document serving as their license ID until they receive their card in the mail. That interim document is acceptable for SCR. We definitely want to take a moment to salute the Department of Motor Vehicles. In the last two elections, they have offered specific hours for walk-in registration for new Nevada residents in Reno, Henderson, and Las Vegas. They extended their hours since 2020. However, this is at the discretion of the Department of Motor Vehicles, and it's not due to NRS obligations. Current DMV hours, all of the Southern Nevada Department of Motor Vehicle locations are open from Monday through Friday. The hours are 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. and Saturday they're open from 8 a.m. to 4 p.m. The Reno DMV also has the same hours of operation. One thing that we have definitely seen though is unfortunately, since this is something that's not statute, it's just something that the DMV decides to do at times. And so it's not really taught across the board. We actually had multiple reports to our election protection hotline of folks going specifically to the Flamingo location and saying, hey, you know, I saw the post online from the DMV and I want to go ahead and, you know, get an ID so I can participate in same day voter registration. And they were told by team members at the DMV, you know, we don't know what you're talking about. That's not a policy that we have. Luckily, the Secretary of State's office was able to assist in this issue, but we see passing this as a statute and having that giving the opportunity for the DMV to train their employees, and so there's not any issue of miscommunication or anything moving forward. I just also want to note one particular story that I had with Election Protection Hotline. Last year, a dear friend of mine called and actually called our hotline, and she works at a community center, and there was an elderly man who came in, and he is a former Nye County resident and moved to Clark County and lives in a senior home. This is something that we see very often. A lot of times voters are moving from one county to another in the state of Nevada, and they don't realize that you have to update your voter registration, and they may not realize that until it's time for them to actually vote. Through this, we were able to make sure that we got the gentleman the assistance that he needed, but sometimes folks may not really realize this until it's the very last minute, maybe the last day of early vote or election day. And being able to have a policy like this really would assist voters like this veteran. Just to wrap up in conclusion, we really think that same-day voter registration is an amazing policy. It's allowed thousands of voters from Republicans to Democrats and nonpartisans and everything else in between to participate in Nevada's democracy, and they wouldn't have if there wasn't a policy like SDR. But we know that it can be even better and more accessible. And we thank the senator for bringing forward this policy. It doesn't change the current circumstances of SDR, it just makes it better. Thank you so much for your time, committee.
And thank you, Senator.
Thank you very much, Vice Chair Daly. With that, I'm happy to answer any questions.
Any question from the committee, such as it is? I don't believe I have any questions either. I did read through the provisions. It seems pretty straightforward and in order. I think all of those contingencies and scenarios have been addressed, and people cast their provisional ballot, and then they have to get the rest of the verification by that next Friday. And then DMV being open so they can get that license, as I said, all appears to be in order.
Thank you. James Orenshaw, State Senate District 21. Thank you, Vice Chair. And also I want to echo what Ms. Prasad Zamora said. I do appreciate all the efforts the DMV's made to try to accommodate folks who need to make that update. Do appreciate that. And there is an amendment proposed by Clark County. So there is an amendment, I believe, I believe Clark County is going to come up and talk a little bit about the amendment. There is an amendment that should be on else. I neglected to mention that in my opening comments as well.
Sure. Is it your amendment or Clark County?
I believe it is submitted by Clark County. Thank you. Thanks.
Hello, thank you. Ashley Kennedy representing Clark County. We did offer a conceptual amendment to the senator for consideration. The amendment does not address same-day voter registration, but because it was in line with the efforts of the bill, we thought it was an appropriate suggestion. Currently, for automatic voter registration, so you are updating your driver's license at the DMV. If you're updating your address, for example, you'll automatically be re-registered with your new address. Currently, that deadline for automatic voter registration, the registration deadline is 28 days before the election, which is the same day as registering to vote by mail. What the amendment will do is actually update that deadline. So rather than it being 28 days before the election, it will be 13 days before the election. What this means is that we will have less provisional ballots, hopefully. That means that if you register to vote on 14 days before or 13 days before the election, you'll still be able to have a mail ballot, and it will still be considered a regular ballot, and you wouldn't have to submit a provisional ballot. This was something that we came as an idea of our registrar to just kind of modernize, especially with AVR, with automatic voter registration. It expands access, and it does not impact anything related to same-day voter registration. But happy to answer questions.
Any question? I do have one real quick. So you said if they're go to DMV and it's at least 13 days before, I know there's got to be a cutoff somewhere. You said they could still get the mail ballot in that time frame?
Yes, we, in speaking with our registrar actually just earlier today, that would be the case with this change.
Cutting it close, because you're in early voting at that period of time as well.
Yeah, and that's why we chose I'm so sorry, Senator, Ashley Kennedy for the record for Clark County. That's why we kind of landed on the 13 days, because it does, to your point, where it is cutting it a little bit close. So we thought 13 days was fair.
No, and I'm fine, and I see that, but it is under your name, Senator Ornschall, as the proposed amendment on Nellis, but that's okay.
It's not, pardon me, Vice James Orchall says it's not on Nellis?
It is.
It is on
It's
Nellis.
just under your name.
Okay, all right. Well, I definitely do support the amendment, and I believe it'll actually expand accessibility from what I've heard, from our Clark County Clerk and Registrar.
Excellent. Well, thank you for that. Seeing no other questions, I'll ask you to step back and we'll open it up for testimony in support here or in Clark County. We have some support coming forward. Let's change it up and take our one person in Clark County first.
Thank you very much, Vice Chair Daley. My name is Anahit Baghshetyan. For the record, that is ANAHITBAGHSHETSYN, and I'm a research assistant at Nevada Policy. Nevada Policy supports Senate Bill 422. It's an important measure that would enhance election integrity and ensure voter access. This is a first step to establish a clear and consistent voter ID requirements, and as a result, Nevada will strengthen its confidence in the integrity of our elections. Furthermore, with the passage of AB 422 in the 81st session and the full implementation of voter registration and election management solution systems underway, the bill would allow with a clearer and more precise database when it comes to curing provisional ballots and resolving real-time issues during the elections. Importantly, SB 422 would not place an undue burden on voters. Rather, it would simply expand access by requiring longer working hours for DMV offices. This would be a great accommodation for working Nevadans who will not have otherwise enough time to go to DMV and ensure that they have up-to-date voter ID. And by allowing time until Friday to cap the provisional ballot curing the procedures, this would be a great cure for a rather big problem that we've been facing election after election. So for these reasons, we would love to urge the committee to support the legislation. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Vice Chair, members of the committee. My name is
Please go ahead, yes.
Oh, sorry. My name is Eric Jeng, ERICJENG. I'm the Executive Director of One API Nevada, advocating for the fast-growing Asian American and Pacific Islander community. I believe my colleague already sent in the support statement for SB 422, so I just want to say ditto and thank the sponsor and presenter for this bill. Thank you.
Okay, seeing no one else in Clark County, let's go ahead and start here.
Good evening. My name is Jennifer Willett. My last name is spelled Willett, and I'm the Senior Campaign Manager at All Voting is Local Action Nevada, an organization that advocates for policies and legislative priorities that expand voter access. We strongly support SB 422, a common sense bill that meets the needs of thousands of voters, especially those who are new Nevadans, first-time voters, and have recently moved, and who have decided to vote in the days or weeks right before Election Day. As an election protection volunteer, by far the most frequent question I'm asked is how to register same day with an out-of-state ID. And this is not surprising, as Emily went over, as Nevada is one of the most transient states in the country due to our state's economy, high military presence, and newly relocated retirees. I explain our state's laws and direct them to the DMV for a Nevada ID, but it's not uncommon for them actually to come back and tell me that all of the appointments are booked. This creates obviously significant frustration for people who are eager to be civically engaged and vote. We believe SB 422 would address these issues by requiring the DMV to offer extended hours. When voter registration is accessible, more people are likely to vote, leading to elections that are more representative of the entire population, not just those with the knowledge and time to navigate the registration process. Please vote yes on SB 422, and thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Good afternoon, Vice Chair Daley and members of the committee. My name is Kayla Maese, spelled Kaylah. Last name is Maese. I'm a civil rights analyst at the ACLU of Nevada, and we are also coalition members of the Let Nevadans Vote Coalition. We proudly support SB 422, and we thank Senator Ornschall for bringing the bill forward. Thank you.
Thank you.
Vice Chair Daly, and members of the committee. I am Esmeralda Vasquez, Esmeralda Vazquez, with Strategies 360 today on behalf of Campaign Legal Center. Campaign Legal Center supports SB 422 to ensure broader access to the same-day registration process and to the identification needed to cast a ballot in Nevada. As a nonpartisan election reform organization, CLC believes that thoughtful expansion of this policy that balances both access and security will help ensure that a greater number of eligible voters will have the opportunity to participate in the electoral process, despite circumstances that may have prevented them from obtaining a Nevada's driver's license or ID before Election Day. And this bill does exactly that, requiring the DMV to be more available on weekends and for extended hours for the purpose of issuing and renewing identifications during the critical election period will limit long lines and other challenges voters currently face to obtain the needed documentation. Taken together, the provisions in this bill help ensure that voters aren't being cut off from the political process simply because they lack specific Nevada identification on Election Day. Cutting down on the number of disenfranchised Nevadans is a worthwhile and achievable goal that this bill helps accomplish. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else here in Carson City or Las Vegas? Not seeing any. Broadcast, do we have anybody in support on the phones?
If you would like to testify in support of SB 442, please press *9 to take your place in the queue.
Good evening, members of the committee. My name is Paula Luna, Paulaluna, and I'm the Deputy Director of Battle-Born Progress, and I'm calling in support of SB 422. SB 422 would facilitate access to the ballot box and therefore should be supported. We would also like to echo the comments made by the bill presenters and supporting testimony, and we thank Senator Orenshaw for bringing this important legislation forward. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Do we have any other callers in support?
Caller with the phone number ending in 218, please go ahead.
Thank you. Good evening. My name is Bree Schmidt, BRISCHMIDT, representing Silver State Equality, Nevada's statewide LGBTQ+ civil rights organization. We are in support of SB 422 because it will increase voter participation, particularly for populations that often experience the most obstacles in accessing the democratic process, and ditto to what everybody else has said. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Next caller.
Caller with the phone number ending in 428, please press *6 to unmute, and you may begin. Caller with the phone number ending in 428, please press *6. You may begin your call.
Good afternoon, Chair Orenshaw and members of the committee. My name is William Moore, spelled Williammoore. I'm the Nevada Civic Engagement Director with Mi Familia en Acción, here testifying in support of SB 422. Mi Familia en Acción is a civic engagement organization and a proud member of the Let Nevadans Vote Coalition. Latinos are passionate about participating in our democracy, particularly about voting in elections. We're a community that believes in voting, as it's a path to build greater opportunity for our communities. It will also allow us to have our voices heard at the ballot box at a critical time in our country. Our community often works in jobs that are hard to take time off, and SB 422 would help ensure the Latino voters are able to vote on election day. We believe that our community needs this expansion of the same-day voter registration process. SB 422 is a well-rounded legislation that emphasizes fully utilizing our resources for our community. Thank you for sponsoring this bill, and we recommend the committee support SB 422. Thank you.
Thank you.
Caller with the phone number ending in 428, please press *6 and unmute your line. You're able to continue.
There are no additional callers at this time.
Thank you. With that, we will open testimony in opposition here or in Las Vegas.
Hello, my name is Lorena Biasotti, speaking for myself, last name Biassotti. I was here earlier to speak on another bill, but when I came across this one, I saw that we are yet again tinkering with voter laws. And it makes me wonder, is it that we just didn't like the outcome of the fair presidential election? I couldn't help but notice the intent is to remove obstacles, quote unquote obstacles, by allowing citizens to register to vote using copies of documents if need be. Is this bill something that would block illegal aliens from voting, or would it facilitate it? Seems pretty obvious, especially when it comes at a time when the Biden administration has allowed millions of illegals from all over the world to pour into our country. I wonder who illegals would vote for when given the opportunity with bills like SB 422. Lastly, I personally take offense to the notion that this would help the Latino community, not the legal ones. We know very well how to register to vote. We don't need this ever-expanding window to allow us to register to vote, because informed voters, informed citizens know how to register to vote ahead of time. Thank you.
Thank you.
My name is Leslie Quinn, Quinn. I oppose SB 422. I read an AI overview that defines clutter as a condition of disorder, a collection of items strewn about in a disorganized fashion that can negatively impact mental health and productivity. Merriam-Webster defines it as a crowded or confused mass of collection. Clutter certainly describes SB 422. An elector, according to the Nevada law, is a citizen of the United States of the age of 18 and upwards who shall have actually resided in the state 6 months and in the district or county 30 days next preceding any election. And yet the bill simply clutters that Nevada law. It interjects anyone from anywhere into Nevada's election process, leaving our county clerks and the job of having to determine if their votes even counted after the election is already over. Unfortunately, Nevada's provisional ballot legislation is also cluttered. A provisional ballot by law can't even be opened until the day after the election. Election legislation purpose is to support the people's election process, not to clutter it up. Please put forth bills for voting with paper ballots, voting on the same day, counting voting ballots on the same day as voting day, stamping legal U.S. citizen on all driver's licenses. This will save Nevadans hundreds of thousands of tax dollars and bring back trust in voting. Please oppose SB 422.
No one else in Clark County. We'll go to Carson City here. So when you're ready.
Good evening, Mr. Vice Chair. My name is Janine Hansen. I'm the state chairman of the Independent American Party. We have often heard from the chair of this committee how there was no election fraud in the past. I would submit that this bill will contribute to citizens' distrust of the election system. No wonder people are concerned about the election process with things like this bill, when you can have people with out-of-state driver's licenses registering to vote. And if they don't have any kind of ID, they can just swear out an affidavit and get a provisional ballot, which is not finalized until the Friday after the election. It will also cost the DMV more money. I think this is a huge problem for people's view of the elections. On April 2nd, Elon Musk revealed that millions of illegals are receiving driver's licenses and many are voting. Antonio Gracias said that they had unveiled a shocking chart, a dramatic spike of Social Security numbers issued to non-citizens, soaring from 270,000 in 21 to 2.1 million in 24. It's almost 5 million non-citizens now embedded in the system, collecting benefits, draining taxpayer dollars, and most alarmingly, infiltrating the voter rolls. They said they stumbled on this by accident, but we found 1.3 million already in Medicare and a total of 5.5 million in those benefit programs. And so they actually just took a sample and looked at the voter registration records, and they found people registered to vote who were illegal and who also voted during the last election. This is a huge concern to Americans, citizens who feel their votes are being become meaningless when you have people who should not be voting. This bill contributes to their concerns, and so we oppose it.
Thank you. Go ahead.
Good evening. My name is Lynn Chapman, and I'm the State Vice President of Nevada Families for Freedom. We too are very concerned about this bill. Driver's licenses from another state, we have to worry about fake IDs, identity theft, which is terrible nowadays, to prove a person's identity, and then to have a utility bill to prove their residency. Well, back in 2008, before the primary, I noticed that I hadn't received a bill from NV Energy, and I was talking to my husband about it. And my daughter came in, she worked for the grocery store, and she took care of the bill. She was in non-foods, took care of bills that people wanted to pay. And she says, well, Mom, there's at least 50 people in the last week that has come in and said the same thing. They hadn't received their bill. So when I called NV Energy, they said, oh, you called us and we changed your address. Which was very alarming. So in 2009 legislative session in this room for Leg Ops, I reported this information, and Senator Bill Raggio was very concerned and listened to me, and I talked to him about it. I don't know what he ever did about it, but I know that he was concerned and said he'd take care of things. But there was a lot of people that had the problems with their addresses being changed. So, also, concerning the provisional ballots, well, people getting another driver's license, they have till 5 p.m. Friday after the election to produce a driver's license. And I was wondering how long people have to wait to find out the outcome of elections. And also motor vehicles staying open on.
We're at our 2 minutes, if you can wrap up.
Okay, Sundays and Saturdays, the DMV staying open. It costs a lot of money to do that, and I think people should be a little bit more responsible in getting things done in time, like the rest of the hundreds of thousands of people in this state. People don't feel comfortable with the way things are going with the elections. We need to do something different. Thank you.
Thank you. Seeing no one else either here or in Clark County broadcast, do we have anybody in opposition on the phones?
If you'd like to testify in opposition to SB 442, please press *9 to take your place in the queue. Caller with the phone number ending in 698, please press star 6 and you may begin.
Good evening. My name is Ellen Gifford, ELLEN-GIFFORD. Please note that when there was election day and not election month, voters were mature, responsible people who knew they needed to be registered to vote and came prepared. Same-day registration simply causes more confusion and fraud in our elections and never should have been allowed in our elections. I oppose this bill. Thank you.
Thank you. Next caller, please.
Yes, hi, this is Al Lasso, LASSO, Las Vegas. First, I want to say I have great respect for the important work all the Senate committees do. And while I may not always agree with every decision made, I fully recognize the weight of your responsibilities and the challenges you face in making them. This bill is an example of government overkill by far. The handful of lazy people who can't get registered in time to vote when we have early voting for a month that are going to be affected by this bill is so minimal. To keep the DMV open for days on weekends doesn't make sense to spend that kind of money. Why don't you keep it open for people who are actually residents of Nevada when we can't make an appointment for 3 months? This bill will allow out-of-state IDs, which could create opportunities for voter fraud, as individuals who are not residents could attempt to vote in the election when they're not eligible. A driver's license from another state doesn't prove residency in Nevada, and neither does a power bill. Accepting another state's ID or signed affidavit could undermine our state's election laws. Also, election officials may have difficulty verifying out-of-state licenses or affidavits on election day, leading to administrative complications and delays. We already have some of the longest delays ever to get our results. There's potential for duplicate voting. A person with an out-of-state ID may have already voted in their home state, raising concerns about double voting. Signed affidavits rely on self-attestation, which could be more susceptible to fraudulent claims. There's a law that says if you're a resident of this state, you have to get your driver's license within 30 days. I think we follow that law and we allow the law-abiding citizens to vote, and the others who couldn't vote in time will just have to vote in the next election. I can't imagine spending this kind of money.
If you can wrap up, please, or at your 2 minutes.
Certainly. Certainly. I ask you to vote no on SB 422 for the handful of people this will affect.
Thank you. Next caller, please.
Caller with the phone number ending in 490, please press star 6 to unmute your phone and you may begin. Caller with your phone number ending in 490, please press star 6 to unmute yourself and begin.
Hi, Yolanda Canuck, Yolanda, last name Knaak. I'm 100% opposed to SB 422. Please don't allow people with out-of-state driver's licenses to come and vote with a provisional ballot. I live in Incline Village, 4 miles from California. I worked the polls on election day. We had a lot of people coming with their California driver's licenses and voting here in Incline Village on a provisional ballot. As an election worker, it's very time consuming. Plus, ballots need to be counted on election day, not 5 days later, when these people come with their Nevada driver's licenses. And I'd be surprised how many didn't come. I wouldn't be surprised that a lot of them didn't come. Plus, because you get a Nevada driver's license doesn't mean you're a citizen. So please vote no on SB 422. Non-citizen ballots must not be counted. Thank you.
Thank you. Next caller, please.
If you have recently joined and would like to testify in opposition to SB 442, please press *9 to take your place in the queue. Thank you, Chair. The public line is open and working. There are no callers wishing to testify in opposition at this time.
Thank you. So at this time, we'll go to neutral here or in Las Vegas. Looks like Las Vegas is cleared out. Proceed when you're ready.
Good evening, Mr. Vice Chair and committee member. Sean Sever from the Nevada DMV. We are neutral on SB 422, but we do have a fiscal note on the bill, and I wanted to thank the bill sponsor for reaching out to us. The impact here with the DMV is pretty simple. This is overtime pay for our employees. Our employees work 40 hours a week, and if we have to call them in over the weekend or after hours, we need to pay them overtime, along with the security guards we also need to have on hand. We already do this for people wanting to register to vote at our urban offices 2 weeks prior to Election Day from 8:30 to 11:30 a.m., Monday through Saturday without an appointment. In addition, we are open 7:30 to 6 p.m. on Election Day and the day before Election Day. And these are for DL/ID, driver's license ID transactions only. I think it's also important to point out that the DMV does not register people to vote. If you apply to vote through the DMV, your information is forwarded to the Secretary of State and the appropriate county register, who complete the actual registration and maintain the voter rolls. And we do like to help people get ID at the DMV. That's our business. We're good at it. Denying people would be opposite of what we do every day. So if that happens, let me know. I also wanted to point out we do accept appointments, walk-in appointments on Wednesdays. You can get an appointment on Tuesday evenings online for the next day on Wednesdays. That's it for me. Thanks.
Thank you. Any other neutral testimony in here or Las Vegas? Seeing none, broadcast, anybody on the phone for neutral testimony?
If you'd like to testify in neutral for SB 422, please press *9 to take your place in the queue. The public line is open and working. There are no callers wishing to testify in neutral at this time.
Thank you. Senator, any closing remarks?
Thank you, Mr. Vice Chair. James Orchall, State Senate District 21. I'll try to be brief. I thank the committee, thank you and the committee for hearing the bill. In response to some of the testimony from some of the opposition, we heard the term illegal thrown about quite a bit. I certainly don't believe that any people are illegal. Certainly we have undocumented persons in our country and we have non-citizens. There's nothing in Senate Bill 422 that would facilitate non-citizens voting or voter fraud. There's nothing in this bill that would facilitate that. Certainly, we've had statements from our Republican Secretary of State, Barbara Zagowski, and our now current Democratic Secretary of State, Cisco Aguilar, stating that they did not find any significant voter fraud in the state. Looking at the Brennan Center for Justice website, and their studies show that voter fraud or instances of non-citizen voting is extremely rare. But again, I want to reiterate that there's nothing in Senate Bill 422 that would do anything to facilitate that. If a non-citizen tries to vote, or someone tries to vote twice, or commit any kind of voter fraud, that is a felony, punishable by state law, and in many cases by federal law as well. This bill tries to make some changes to remove obstacles for people who are qualified to vote and who want to participate in same-day voter registration, which is legal in our state, either during the early voting period or on election day. Certainly, I believe it's good policy across the board. I appreciate Vice Chair and committee for listening to the bill. I hope the committee will consider moving this bill forward, and I appreciate the committee's time.
Thank you. With that, we will close the hearing on Senate Bill 422.
Thank you very much to the Vice Chair. Thanks everyone for their patience this late hearing. With that, the last item on our agenda is public comment. I'd like to go to public comment. Anyone here in person or in Las Vegas would like to make public comment? And if, please state your name for the record and proceed.
Good evening, Chair. Mark Vlasin, Deputy Secretary of State for Elections. For the record, last name is spelled W-L-A-S-C-H-I-N. I simply wanted to comment. There was a caller earlier that did improperly cite the residency requirement for voters in the state of Nevada. In the Constitution, it says that there's a 6-month requirement. In statute, that clarifies that it's actually 30 days in a county and 10 days in the precinct. It's an important note. I wanted to make sure we got that on the record as well, though, just to, in case anybody did hear that. And wonder or maybe question their own ability to register to vote. So it's not 6 months, it is 30 days. And if anybody has questions about the residency requirements or other requirements or timelines associated with voting, I certainly encourage them to reach out to the Office of the Secretary of State. Email nvelect@sos.nv.gov or 775-684-5705. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Deputy Secretary of State Woloshyn. Thanks very much for the information and for clarifying that. With that broadcasting, I'd like to go to the phone lines. Anyone who'd like to make public comment, please state your name for the record.
If you would like to provide public comment, please press *9 to take your place in the queue. Caller with the last 3 digits of 490, please press *6 and you may begin.
CYRUSHOJJATY. I tried to call in the last meeting, but I couldn't. So just to let you know, maybe I'm in a bad data area. So hopefully you can get that fixed, or I can do something with my phone. So thank you. Yield my time. Yeah, I was opposed to the last bill. Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Iris Stone, IRISSTONE. I realize this is public comment, but I tried to, I was in the queue for a couple hours on SB 422, and for some reason there was a mix-up with the phone, so I just want to give you my testimony for SB 422, which I oppose. I'd like to describe this. There are 2 major issues in my view. I'd like to describe the first issue with a scenario that could be allowed should SB 422 be approved and passed. Someone rents an apartment in Las Vegas 2.5 months prior to Election Day in the name of an Arizona resident with a proper Arizona driver's license. This person temporarily moves to Las Vegas, makes sure he or she pays utility bills for 2 months. On Election Day, she or he votes. They bring the utility bill with them, and they will be allowed to vote. The same scenario applies to people with tribal identification cards from anywhere in the United States. Then a week after the election, the rental contract is canceled. The person returns full-time to their Arizona residence. I call this voter trafficking, or better yet, voter harvesting. It sure takes ballot harvesting to a new level. The second major issue has to do with a clear mandate from the public as well as Governor Joe Lombardo requesting for election results to be available by the end of Election Day. However, SB 422 allows for provisional votes to be counted 6 days after the election, not to mention that it lacks transparency. It does not employ a team of 2 people from different parties to decide whether to cast a vote. The public is not aware as to which elector voted provisionally, and they may be approved or not. And the final voter results are not released to the public until 7 or days after the election. This will increase the number of provisional votes that Nevada will have to process, increase workload for election workers. During the 24 general election, Clark County had approximately 18,500 provisional votes approved and cast out of a total of 19,700. We all know how hard it is to prove malfeasance after the election is certified. I urge you not to support SB 422. Thank you for allowing me to testify.
If you have recently joined and would like to provide public comment, please press *9 to take your place in the queue.
Good evening, Chair Orenshaw and Committee. My name is Jim DeGraffenreid, JIMDEGRAFFENREID. I'm Nevada's National Committee man in opposition to SB 422 on behalf of the Nevada Republican Party. Since 2020, Nevada has become the laughingstock of the country due to our inability to count ballots in a timely manner, while anyone who visits the casino can attest to our skills in counting chips and cash. SB 422 is another attempt to pass SB 433 of the 2023 session. That bill was vetoed by Governor Lombardo, who correctly noted in his veto message that the bill allows for insufficient proof of residency to vote and places the sanctity and security of our elections in jeopardy. SB 422 creates further delays in reporting final, accurate election results by encouraging additional provisional ballots. Provisional ballots, which come primarily from same-day voter registrations, are already difficult and complex for counties to manage. This bill needlessly adds further complexity and delay because it is already incredibly easy to register to vote in Nevada. You can register to vote online, in person, automatically at the DMV, or at a polling place on Election Day. Once registered, voters have ballots delivered to them free of charge without even asking. It should be easy to vote and hard to cheat. We particularly object to Section 3, which adds an additional 6 days of special treatment by the DMV at a cost of hundreds of thousands of dollars, according to the fiscal note. DMV voter registration has been an abject failure, wasting significant taxpayer dollars on a flawed system, causing voters to lose their party registration, and failing to produce increased participation in elections. This section adds more expensive complexity when most adults already have a driver's license as part of a functioning in society. For all of these reasons, we ask you to please vote no on SB 422. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. The public line is open and working. There are no others wishing to testify, or to add public comment at this time.
Well, thank you to all the members, to the public, all the witnesses, everyone for their patience. I know the hour went late, and thanks everyone. With that, we are adjourned.